Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, liberty-loving patriots. Welcome to the Lucid Libertarian with Lorianne show. Please be sure to tune in Sunday nights from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, to discuss current events, news, and political opinion with Lucid Libertarian flair. Be prepared, folks. We often go into an optional extended third hour. This show advocates for liberty, freedom, our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and limited government, while speaking against corporate and government corruption, tyranny, and the globalist Great Reset agenda that undermines our precious American sovereignty. Discussions here are unscripted and free-flowing, so sometimes conversations wander off in unpredictable directions. Would you like to call in and share your thoughts and be part of the conversation? The number is 563-999-3698. Again, that is 563-999-3698. Press number 1 and you'll be added to the queue. Please also like and follow my Lucid Libertarian with Lorianne page on Facebook. You can help me battle their freedom-loathing censorship by visiting my page regularly, along with reacting, commenting, and sharing my posts. Thank you so much for listening, but please sit tight and don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few minutes to kick off the show.
Imagine waking up in a trunk. What is grooming? What if I told you we had a 40% increase of human and sex trafficking in our country due to COVID lockdowns? We already had high numbers to begin with. One's Purpose is an amazing organization pounding the pavement every day, helping these survivors get help. Unfortunately, they do not have the funding they need for a safe house. In the state of Oregon, we have 0 safe houses for these survivors who have endured the most heinous of crimes. The time is now to get involved. The time is now to help stop human trafficking. Please go to onespurpose.com to get involved. If you need help and if you know someone who needs to get help, please contact 541-221-3448. Make a donation, make a difference.
NWCR Radio has been on the air since 2006 and with Conservative Nation Media since 2013. Now, NWCR continues as the owner of CNM with the news that the lamestream lying liberal media chooses not to tell you because the truth has nothing to do with the agenda that they are all pushing. We will tell the truth no matter what the liberal left has to say about it or what the truth is. Being banned off of YouTube for telling the truth with my updates and off of Facebook several times, we have our badges of honor that we keep pushing the envelope for on our show. My co-host, Lucid Libertarian Lorianne, and I, along with my band of callers, have great shows with great information for America on each episode. We are NWCR Radio, Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Blog Talk Radio through Conservative Nation Media, where America always wins.
Well. Hello, everybody. You are tuned in to the Lucid Libertarian with Lorianne show. This is your host, Lorianne. Thank you so much for making your way here. We have Robert, Conservative Nation Media, in the chat room. We got Gunslinger in the chat room and kicking back on the phone lines. We got Daniel and Kathy kicking back on the phone lines and a Skype number kicking back. So we are awaiting, hopefully, some of the usual misfits that call in and come into the chat room for tonight. That, of course, was Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire. That's a song we haven't heard for a while, but still just as relevant today as it was back when he made it. Let's see, when was that song made? Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire. When did that song come out? 1989. Wow. I feel old. Wow, 1989. Flashback. But also such a good song. And to be honest, I will disclose where my motivation came from, because I'll admit it. Don't hate me for admitting this, everybody, but I actually do watch The Masked Singer. The Masked Singer show is, if you've never watched it, it's really corny. I know it. It's super corny, but I actually like it. Don't ask me why, but it's kind of funny because, various celebrities, they dress up in these elaborate costumes and stuff like that. Well, anyway, and then the panel of judges or whatever try to guess who the celebrity is under the costume. And they, the celebrity sing song is kind of like a competition. Anyways, so it's a really corny show. But this past week they had a Billy Joel dedicated show. So they, did a lot of Billy Joel songs. And so, of course, I don't think that We Didn't Start the Fire was one of the songs that was done that night, but it got me in the mood for Billy Joel because they were doing various songs of his. And so, of course, that's why I was inspired to do some Billy Joel tonight. Anyway, long story short. Short story long, rather. Looks like we got Mike in the chat room. Hey there, Mike. Good to see you showing up. So, yeah, lots of stuff to get into. I do have a clip that I plan on playing to kick off the show with once I get into some of the other stuff. And then I might do something a little bit different tonight. I'll want your feedback on it later, but I was thinking in the third hour, the bonus hour, of playing either the full 51-minute clip of the Tucker Carlson Ron Paul interview, or there's I also downloaded a clip of the first 15 minutes of it. But I thought I might do that in the bonus hour for everybody that's on the line, and then as we go into No Man's Land overtime, it would give us plenty to talk about. It was actually a really great interview. I'm such a fan of Ron Paul. I think most of us know that, especially being libertarian. I don't think you could be libertarian without being a Ron Paul fan, practically. It's like it would be rare if you're a libertarian and you don't actually like Ron Paul. So anyway, lots of stuff to get into tonight. So I'm hoping that everybody will be joining us here. We had a pretty late night last night on Donnie's show, Beyond the Mainstream. We were all up pretty late. Blog Talk didn't cut us off. So I'm hoping that maybe this week I won't get cut off. Let's see. The last week I had my guest on, Captain Dan Hanley. I think it was a great show. And, we covered a lot of ground. I let him just kind of have the floor for the most part for the first hour. And then we took on callers one by one for comments and questions and things. And so it went pretty smoothly, but then we were 45 minutes into the bonus hour, So there's still 15 minutes left of the bonus hour and show recording, and Blog Talk hung up on us. And I don't know, maybe the powers that be did not like what we were talking about because there was too much 9/11 truth, and we were talking about Osama bin Laden, and we were talking about, some of the conspiracy theories involving everything that happened surrounding 9/11 and all of that stuff. So I don't know. And then all of a sudden, poof, Blog Talk ended the show on us prematurely. So hopefully that doesn't happen tonight. I don't have a controversial guest on, so maybe the odds will be in my favor to quote Hunger Games. So anyway, yeah, so tonight's show, Tyrannical Governments Loot the Nation. I got inspired by that due to Congress and the Senate passing this massive 1,012-page spending bill to avert the government shutdown to the tune of $1.2 trillion that funds everything until only September. So it's not even for a full year, $1.2 trillion for 6 months. That's insane, everybody. That's insane. I want to get into that. And it just, with that story, it just inspired me to have the Tyrannical Governments Loot the Nation as my title for tonight's show. A tyrannical government will always confiscate what is most valuable from the peasants to fund the increase of power and control it thirsts for. That's a quote from me. And it's so true. I cannot believe it. And with this $1.2 trillion, normally they should have had at least 72 hours to review the bill, but Speaker Johnson said, that's all right, no worries. We'll have to pass it, within like 24 hours. So this thing was rushed through. We know damn well none of the Congress members or senators would have had enough time to read through 1,012 pages to see what's actually in it. And I'm rather disappointed with my own Oregon Congress members. Every single one of Oregon's Congress members voted for this thing, including 2 Republicans. And then both of our senators. Both of our senators are Democrat. Most of our Congress members are Democrat, with the exception of 2, but every single one of them voted for this monstrosity. And so that really kind of irked me. I'm like, come on now, not one? How is that representation? How in the world can that be considered representation, folks, when every single one of your state's Congress members, regardless of party, votes for this insane $1.2 trillion spending bill that only gets us through September, 6 months. That's just absolutely nuts, everybody. Absolutely nuts. Then, apparently, it seems that part of that spending bill, very next day, yesterday, the DOJ launches the National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center. Kamala Harris announced it proudly. Yeah, baby. Federal government, we're going to spend $2 million on this basically red flag resource center in order to help states that have these red flag laws. Now, if you remember, Mr. Trump, Donald Trump, I know there's a lot of Donald Trump fans out there. If you remember him stating, the guns first, deal with due process later, in support of red flag laws, he encouraged states to impose more and more red flag laws. Go ahead, states. I don't believe he ever advocated for this to be a federal thing. He encouraged the states to do it. But I think that's his only saving grace. So if Donald Trump, here's my question, if Donald Trump does get elected, is he going to defund this resource center, or is he going to be all for it? And I'm sorry to say, don't hate me for saying it, but I doubt it. I doubt he will scrap this thing. I doubt that he will give this resource center the axe because, you know, he actually does support this stuff. But I just don't think that the federal government should be involved. You know, but this is just another step of making government even bigger. And it's supposed to support the states. Well, why do the states really need that? What can't the states can't implement their own red flag laws and handle it themselves? We need to spend federal money having this resource center for them? I don't get it. It's a waste of money. But of course, that's only a drop in the bucket with the 1.2 trillion. But man, they launched that sucker almost immediately. So out of all of that, you know that they had to be planning this. They don't just, you know, overnight dream this thing up, right? So you know this was in the works. Also in the news, Brian Malinowski, executive director of the Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport, was fatally wounded in a shootout as ATF agents conducted a no-knock raid of his home. So apparently the ATF were suspected or had some sort of whatever evidence that, or whatever, suspected that this Brian guy was illegally selling some firearms. And they could have arrested him at any point. But no, they decide to do a no-knock raid of his home. And so, of course, Brian was probably thinking somebody's breaking into his house, grabs his firearm, and the ATF shot him dead. So this is one of those cases where, hey, folks, maybe these no-knock raids aren't such a great idea, okay? Because this is what happens. Not only does it put the homeowner and anybody else in the house at risk, but it also puts the law enforcement agents' lives at risk. Because when they do a no-knock raid and they're doing it in a home with somebody that's known to have firearms in the house, you know, or maybe if they don't even know, doesn't matter. They're going to be, you know, chances are pretty good they're going to be met with a homeowner that has a gun in their hand thinking that they're getting broken into. So, anyway, I just wanted to point that out. And on to other news as well. A Kentucky judge dismisses a gun charge against a convicted felon. The judge in that case ruled it unconstitutional, and that I agree with. Absolutely, I agree with that. Convicted felons should have their rights restored. There should not be a lifelong ban on firearm ownership. Once you've done your time, you've paid your fines, you've satisfied the requirements and everything of your charge, and it's all said and done, absolutely no reason why your Second Amendment rights should continue to be violated by the state. That's my opinion. Then in other news, and I know Gunslinger's already raising his hand there in the switchboard. I'm sure he wants to get into some of that. And then, of course, in Texas, a Texas federal court put that Texas law that was allowing Texas police to arrest illegals. That court order is putting that law back on hold. So the battle continues between Texas law enforcement and federal agents regarding the border. And, well, maybe if our federal government under the Biden administration wasn't failing so spectacularly at securing our border, then maybe Texas wouldn't have to go that route. However, I believe that when the federal government fails to do its duty, its constitutional duty, this nation and our borders, then the states absolutely have the right to do it themselves if they wish. So that saga continues. Then also there was a pretty big Moscow terror attack. I'm sure most people have seen it in the news. There was the death toll has reached, I believe, 137 people, and killed over 130 people. And ISIS is taking responsibility for it. But yeah, this article shows at least 133 people, but I think that toll has gone up to 137, if I'm not mistaken. It was a City Hall theater just outside of Moscow. This attack happened on Friday. And ISIS has taken responsibility for it. Apparently Putin is saying that the gunman tried to flee into the Ukraine. So I don't know how much that is true, but that is what Putin is saying, and Russia is saying that Ukrainians might have been involved in this. Excuse me. I tried to give them refuge. Sorry for coughing in your ear, folks. I didn't reach my mute button in time. So that's a pretty interesting development. And it kind of ties back to, okay, so ISIS almost immediately takes responsibility for this, right? And I'm going to go back to last week when Captain Dan was on my show, and we were talking about why bin Laden, why would bin Laden take over a year and a half to finally, supposedly, accept credit for 9/11. Usually, when a terror attack happens, just like this, the group that is behind it usually takes credit for it. They're proud of themselves. They just killed over, like 135 people. They're proud of themselves. They took credit for it right away. So with 9/11, that just brings me back to 9/11, that it took a year and a half for bin Laden to supposedly take credit for it. Before then, he denied it consistently. So it doesn't make sense. Anyway, so, I guess we'll see what transpires out of that, but that's just leading up to, World War III is being orchestrated and planned before our very eyes, and I think this is just another one of those steps toward it. Let's see. Then, let me go back here. Then this is the clip that I was thinking of playing, and I know I've got a couple people raising their hands. Mike, I see you raising your hand, Gunslinger. I know you are too, because I do want to get back into this, into this DOJ National Extreme Risk Protection Order Center and some of these gun-related things. But I have a clip that I do want to play, and this is kind of a more local story that maybe some of you haven't heard of yet. SCOTUS ruled in favor of a Portland man's no-fly lawsuit. So this is a guy that was put on the no-fly list. And his case went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they ruled in his favor. So I want to play this clip. This is from our local news, our local Fox News station, KPTV, and this kind of gives a little bit of background to it. And then, so I literally have two clips. I need to find the other one, but I think this one is the first one talking about his case. Or no, this is the second one. Where is the first one? Let me see. So I want to play both of them, because the first one kind of talks about, okay, so this one gives like the backstory. So this clip was from January 5th. Supreme Court to hear no-fly list case against the FBI filed by an Oregon man, a Portland man. So this is the backstory, and then I'm going to dated one just from March 19th on the Supreme Court ruling, and we can discuss that a little bit as well. So here we go. They're pretty short clips, 5 minutes in total. So I'm going to fire this off. I thought this was an interesting story to at least play and maybe discuss it a little bit before we get into what I know is one of our favorite subjects is gun control and supporting our Second Amendment rights. I know that we can go on for hours on that. So here we go. This is the first one from January 5th, KPTV, Fox, Oregon. Here we go.
First at 5 tonight.
The Supreme Court will hear arguments on Monday about the case of an Oregon man who says he was placed on the United States no-fly list with no explanation.
Well, after years of working through the legal system, the High Court has accepted a request from the FBI to weigh in. Investigative reporter Ezra Kaplan is following the case and has the preview of next week's arguments.
Yeah, that's right. The case began back in 2010 when Jonas Fikre alleges he was wrongly placed on the no-fly list and then was kept out of the U.S. for years. He sued the government and was removed from the list, but now he's still fighting for a permanent resolution and to have his day in court. In the wake of 9/11, the U.S. government created a list of people who were deemed too much of a risk to national security to fly on commercial flights. That became known as the no-fly list. And it was April 2010 when Jonas Fikre found out he was on that list while on a business trip in Sudan with no notice or explanation.
The thing about the program is it remains a black box. Not only are Americans left in the dark about why they've been placed on the list, just like Mr. Fikre is in the dark about why he was put on the list in the first place, but Americans aren't given any meaningful explanation when they're removed.
Fikre says FBI agents questioned him about his ties to Masjid As-Saber Mosque in Portland and told him he would not be able to return home.
They told me there was a case pending in Portland, Oregon, where I was living, and they needed my help. And I was kind of surprised. I said, "What case is there?" And they said, "Well, we can't tell you. You have to accept. You have to be willing to help us, and then we can tell you."
During that same period, the FBI was investigating Mohammed Osman Mohammed, who was later convicted of plotting to bomb a downtown Portland Christmas tree lighting. Mohammed prayed occasionally at the same mosque where Fikre was allegedly requested to become an informant. After the interaction with the FBI, Fikre went to the United Arab Emirates, where he says he was questioned by local authorities about the same mosque, put in prison, and tortured. Fikre was eventually released and sought asylum in Sweden with a relative, but was denied. Shortly before Sweden put him on a flight back to the U.S., Fikre filed a lawsuit against the FBI.
And so he filed suit asking, why was I put on this list? Because the FBI has never actually told him why he was put on the list. They've never explained to him what he did or didn't do.
Fikre argued the FBI violated his right to due process under the Fifth Amendment by calling him a flight risk and not providing him a way to challenge his status. While that lawsuit was pending, the FBI took him off the list and said that the case was now moot. Although a federal district court agreed with the FBI, the Ninth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said it was not moot because the government hadn't made it clear that he would not be placed on the list again. Now the FBI is asking the nation's highest court to reverse the Ninth Circuit's ruling, and at the heart of the case is a constitutional question that the court now must consider.
It's not actually about whether it's a good process or a bad process or what changes the government should or shouldn't make. It's about, can citizens assert their rights in court? Right? This case is ultimately about due process and the rule of law.
And the Supreme Court will hear arguments from both sides on Monday, but it will likely be several months before a decision is released. Reporting in studio, Ezra Kaplan, Fox 12 Oregon.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you, Ezra.
Okay, so here I'm going to play, it's only a little over 2 minutes, court ruling in favor of this Portland man's case. So here we go.
The U.S. Supreme Court reached a decision today in a Portland man's challenge to his former placement on the no-fly list.
Yeah, Fox 12 Investigates team has been tracking this case since the beginning. Adrian Thomas now live with us in the studio with the new developments. Adrian.
Well, Pete Riel, for months we've been following Portland man Jonas Ficre's case in the Supreme Court. This case over a decade in the making after Ficre found out he was put on the no-fly list with no notice or explanation after a business trip to Sudan. He subsequently filed a lawsuit against the FBI. With today's Supreme Court ruling, Ficre's lawsuit can now move forward. The 9 Supreme Court justices have unanimously decided that the federal government has not demonstrated that a man's no-fly list lawsuit is moot, meaning the case can now move forward. It began back in 2010 when a Portland man, Jonas Ficre, learned he was placed on the list and was kept out of the U.S. for years. Back then, FBI agents tried to get him to become a government informant, but he refused. He was then arrested, imprisoned, and tortured in the United Arab Emirates. Ficre later claimed his placement on the no-fly list was not lawful, and he sued the FBI. Years later, in 2016, he was removed from the list. Then the government tried to have the case dismissed. But the High Court found that the government has failed to show that the case is moot. Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote in the court's opinion, put simply, the government's sparse declaration falls short of demonstrating that it cannot reasonably be expected to do again in the future what it is alleged to have done in the past. But he did note that the ruling is provisional and wrote that just because the government hasn't demonstrated that the case is moot does not mean it will never be able to do so. While today's court ruling was unanimous, Justices Samuel Alito and Brett Kavanaugh wrote in a concurring opinion to clarify some details. The justices wrote, by today's ruling, the Supreme Court is in no way suggesting classified information about the no-fly list that could jeopardize national security be shared in future court proceedings about the case. In studio, Adrian Thomas, Fox 12 Oregon.
All right.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting case, and I thought that it was interesting because of the fact that he was kept out of the U.S. for years by being placed on the no-fly list, and FBI agents tried to get him to become a government informant, but he refused. That is what makes this pretty interesting. They're like, okay, we're going to put you on this no-fly list. And if you want us to reverse that, then you got to come work for us. You got to be an informant for us. Oh, you said no? Oh, well, then good luck rotting away there at the UAE and have fun being tortured all because of this. I think this guy has an interesting case. I'll put the link to this into our chat room for those of you out there that would like to check this out. And I see Joe Gibson is in the chat room. Boyd, I see you raising your hand too. Good to see you guys. Good to see you all showing up. I know that Joe Gibson, yeah, he said 14 years. I think that Joe Gibson can relate. Like, this is how the government works, man. The FBI was screwing with this guy. No explanation for being put on the no-fly list. It's government abuse, and I think we've all known it for a long time. I mean, it's what our government does. They take things that are supposed to be helpful, like having a no-fly list. Like, yeah, we need to know. We need to try to keep people that are dangerous, legitimate terrorists, legitimate threats from, just flying on in here. But that system is so abused. You don't even know. You can be put on a no-fly list, and it's an uphill battle. It's not easy to clear your name of this. And then the government turns around and says, okay, well, what's the bribe here? And if you refuse to help out the FBI, oh boy, it's just insane. So, yeah, we can talk about that. We can talk about some of these other things going on. I'm going to go ahead and start bringing people on in. We got Bianchi in the house. We got Boyd in the house. We got Gunslinger in the house. We got Mike in the house. How you do?
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
There's a couple. Speaking of guns, and we like to talk about guns on here, and I'm called a gunslinger. Got a little opinion on this guy that got shot in the head by the ATF. Okay, ATF should be disbanded immediately. They serve no purpose. So no government purpose.
Who's playing background stuff?
Yeah, there's a little
background.
background.
If you're going to be playing stuff in the background.
And then with these no-knock warrants, I mean, most reasonable people that's in their home and hear somebody come crashing through their door at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're you're 99% asleep. Guess what? You're going to start shooting. The average person would, okay? Including me. Somebody could bust through my door at 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. But then, these things could be avoided just like they did that dude down there in Waco, down there in South Texas down here, okay? Branch Davidians. They traced him. They was following him. They was following him to the gun shows up here in Mesquite, Texas, a suburb of Dallas, okay, every month. And they could have nailed him anywhere between Mesquite and Waco, back and forth. You got to go there, you got to come back. But no, they didn't. So why are they so hot and heavy on these no-knock warrants when they could have other ways of doing it more peacefully without people getting shot? Stupid idiots. Disband them.
Exactly. And that's my issue with it. I mean, in some cases, I can see the justification for it, but I usually don't think it's a good idea, especially if you have other options available to you. And it's one of those things. Like, why do that? Why do a no-knock raid when the ATF had other opportunities? They could have, he could have been out, I don't know, watering his fucking plants or something. You know what I mean? And arrested him, and done the warrant and searched his home. They could have done it in such a way where the risk of anybody getting shot, either anybody in the home, this guy, this Brian Malinowski, they could have done it any number of ways. Why do they use the most high-risk way when they have other options available to them? It doesn't make any sense.
And you know what?
Wanted this guy dead.
And you know what the most other sick part of it is? If it's the same story I read day before yesterday, the ATF there is holding the guy's body, and the family is screaming because they want to donate his organs. He's dead. I mean, he's brain dead. The only thing that's keeping him alive is a machine. Okay, he's brain dead. They shot him in the head, but they will not release the body for the donation of the organs or whatever, because the ATF they're sick. They're sick. This is plain sick. I mean, how would you like if you was your family member and you wanted to donate their organs? They already shot you in the head, so you're brain dead, and now they won't even release your body. These people are some sick people. Let me tell you.
That's where that second Constitution is being shown. You got these agencies making these damn rules, and they are acting on the premise of being a law. Any rule that an agency come up with should be approved, voted on by Congress.
Absolutely.
That family needs to receive reparations, and a lot of other heads need to bow. On that case where they wouldn't let the man in the country talking about national security, no claim of national security, no pandemic, no catastrophe can put your constitutional rights on hold. It's always on.
Always on. You're absolutely correct. And, when it comes down to your second point, there was what you were talking about, Lorianne, these convicted felons, okay, they don't need a gun. If you're a repeat offender, no. If you were convicted of, say, you wrote a hot check, that's a felony. Okay, last time I checked. Okay, you get your guns right. You get your gun rights back. Sure, no problem. But if you've been convicted of armed robbery, what does armed mean? That means you armed and robbed somebody with a gun. Now they want to give your guns back, and you may do it again. Better think about that one.
Not necessarily. You can be charged with armed robbery and not have a weapon on you. All you have to do is pretend. If you pretend or imply, you make the other person think that you're armed, then you are charged with armed robbery.
Well, of course. You're guilty.
They can pretend.
Go figure.
They can pretend they have a gun on them.
Yeah. It's like if you're going in there and rob a bank. I mean, you may be sitting out there in the car and be the getaway, and your friend goes in there and robs a bank at armed robbery. You're going to get charged with armed robbery because you're the getaway guy. Same thing. No difference.
Right.
Oh, anyway. Go ahead.
Well, assumption is not a reason to deny a person of their rights either. You're going to assume that this guy have a gun, he's going to go out and rob somebody. It's a bunch of bull crap. And look at that dumb judge said that illegals who are breaking the law and who are breaking the felonious law, that they can have guns.
Well, as far as I'm concerned right now, any arguments about the Second Amendment are mute. That judge just provided everybody with their Second Amendment rights.
I don't know. I still am a proponent of you do your time, you pay your fines, you do your probation, you do everything to satisfy it. I still am against a lifelong ban on somebody legally owning firearms. I just am. It's kind of like it's kind of pre-crime. We have no way of really knowing if somebody is going to, repeat again, or if they do repeat. Not everybody has the same reasons for repeating either. So I think every case is different, but even still, it's just one of those things. A right is a right. You've done your time. I think it is an unreasonable. I think it's an unreasonable punishment to ban somebody from legally owning a firearm or being legally in possession of a firearm for the rest of their lives as a result. I think that is unreasonable and unfair punishment.
Well, when they change the law, then when they change the law, then you'll be okay. But the law has been in place for many years. From way back in the Western days. Even though they got guns and stuff like that, the part of the punishment for doing the crime was you can't own a gun no more. That was always part of the punishment. It was written into the law.
Well, it was unconstitutional too. What happened at OK Corral when Earth tried to take the guns of the Clanfords, I think that was their name, that was unconstitutional. It was not supposed to confiscate those people's guns, which led to them being shot and killed and all this stuff.
Right. Well, that just goes to show you how effective no gun zones are, because Tombstone had implemented a law in their town where nobody could carry a gun. In town. You could have it when you're out of town, but not when you're in town. Hence, it was a gun-free zone.
Thing, these gun-free zones around these schools is illegal, too. Suppose your house was built in 1910, and in 1950 they built a school. So you say you're supposed to get rid of your guns in your house that's been there for 40 years before the school ever came into existence? That's unconstitutional.
Hey, you're not getting an argument from me, because gun-free zones are just a fucking joke. Plain and simple. End of story.
Yep.
A gun-free zone is the most dangerous place that you could fucking put yourself into.
Right. I want to go back to the whole no-knock warrant thing. The most famous no-knock warrant guy was what happened with Paul Manafort. They come in the middle of the night, and oh by the way, CNN just so happens to be there to document that they arrested Paul Manafort. All right.
They did the same to Roger. They did the same to Roger Stone.
Yep. Roger Stone as well. Yes, and that's the thing. So, you gotta. If it's a no-knock warrant, nobody's supposed to know about it. How did CNN know about it? Somebody leaked it to them. That's how they knew about it. And that makes if somebody's gonna. If you want to keep these things on up and up, which they shouldn't be, the no-knock warrants shouldn't be on the up and up. They shouldn't be legal. You need to not have CNN know, or any of these people know that this is happening. And that's the thing. But I do agree with you about the gun-free zone.
When they're absolutely, positively, without a doubt in their mind, know that there will not be any gunfire, they'll invite the press to come along. If they invite the press to come along where somebody could stick their head out the door and spray bullets all over the fucking place, are they going to invite the press around so that they could get shot too?
Well, I'll tell you one element that should have been there, and also in the case where they had this no-knock warrant, the local elected sheriff. He has territorial jurisdiction over that area, and they should check in with them. The FBI should check in with the sheriff. The sheriff should make them leave their guns at the station, because what is the cry today? Well, we got too many guns on the street. Well, leave their guns at the station. The sheriff don't know what kind of training that these people have. They may be trigger happy, leading to innocent people. Leave your guns at the station and let the sheriff dictate that what you're doing is legal. Either that or have the sheriff deputize everybody in his county or parish. So
yeah, that's one thing that's for sure. It's this is I think that we've said this many times. Who is elected as your sheriff is such an important vote to have. If you have a corrupt sheriff, if you have a sheriff that willingly works with federal agencies like this, especially when it comes to, enforcing gun laws, stuff like that are unconstitutional, this is where your sheriff is so important. If you don't have a pro-Constitution sheriff that has a fucking backbone and is willing to say, I have jurisdiction here, you don't, get out, you're not welcome here, we're not cooperating with you. If you don't have a sheriff that's willing to do that, then, you just voted yourself a chump, The last thing you need is a chump for a sheriff. We got enough chumps. We got plenty of chumps in Congress. We have plenty of chumps in our state legislation, legislators, plenty of chumps around, in politics. The one place that you don't want a chump is your sheriff.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like anybody that holds a position with authority over U.S. citizens should take and pass with a damn good score the United States Constitution. its documents, and other Bill of Rights issues. Why in the hell you do that with an airline pilot? He has to be able to pass the test to show his capabilities and qualifications to be able to do the job that he's going to be doing, transporting citizens.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
No,
you just got to show up. You just got to show up with the right skin color.
And that's a bunch of dumbass shit too.
Yep. And we also have a lot of chumps in these, like the NYPD and the, Capitol Hill Police and the Washington PD, DC PD, and all that stuff. So, I mean, when you got a whole entire police department that whitewashes a murder and puts it under the rug, and the guy even gets promoted after that, something's wrong. And I'm talking about the thing that happened with Ashley Babbitt with the Capitol Hill Police. That guy should be rotting in jail right now because he killed somebody that should never have been killed.
Well, the good thing about that is the statute of limitation never exists on the murder. And you're absolutely right. Yep. He murdered Ashley Babbitt.
Yep.
And then you got Congress going to give him an award. You got Congress giving him a medal and an honor. The same way them idiots in Minneapolis gave George Floyd a damn honorary degree and all that crazy mess. Kids taken out from classes and marching around the block.
St. George. The guy was a criminal. Not only was he a drug addict, he was a criminal. What was he doing before all that went down? He's trying to pass a phony bill, phony money. That's what he was trying to do. That's criminal.
Well, hell, in Texas, him and 4 other black males forcibly entered this white female's home that was pregnant. He puts a gun up against her pregnant belly and shoves her on the couch as they proceed to ransack and rob the house. Then on the way they left, they took her van and it broke down about a mile from her home. It allowed for them to be caught. Hell, if he had been in jail and got the right prison sentence for that incident, he never would have been there at that location where he lost his life. And that's questionable too.
Yep. Now,
I'm looking at an article that another article about this ATF case. Released search warrant affidavit shows details of the ATF case against Little Rock Airport executive Brian Malinowski. This is what I'm talking about. I'm going to read this article here because I have so many issues with this. Okay, the affidavit detailing the ATF case against the Little Rock Airport executive who was shot and killed by federal agents serving a search warrant at his home was released Thursday. In the heavily redacted warrant affidavit, the ATF claims that Brian Malinowski purchased numerous firearms that he resold without a firearm dealer's license. According to the warrant, Malinowski purchased more than 150 guns between May 2021 and February of 2024. So 3 years. So this is a 3-year span of time. The ATF claims in the affidavit that around 6 of the guns Malinowski sold were found after being connected to a crime. They don't detail what the crimes were. Undercover federal agents purchased another three from Malinowski at Central Arkansas gun shows, the affidavit stated. So these undercover agents are purchasing these firearms from him at a gun show. All right. So there's another opportunity where they could have arrested him peacefully, So they could have done it then. They could have done it any time in that 3 years that he was purchasing guns that they knew of, right? Okay. According to the affidavit, Malinowski would purchase guns through legal means, checking off a box on the purchase form that he was buying the gun for himself. He would then resell the just purchased guns in as little as 24 hours through gun shows where he maintained a table, or through private sales. In one case, he was reported to have told an undercover buyer that all purchases were cash only. All the guns purchased by Malinowski were pistols, including 24 Model 45s by Glock and AR-style pistols. For the Tuesday search warrant, the affidavit stated that ATF agents had planted a tracking device on Malinowski's SUV. At times, he would drive erratically while agents were trailing him, the affidavit said. So there we go again. They have a fucking tracking device on this guy's vehicle. And they could have pulled him over and arrested him at any time. The affidavit listed several cell phones and electronic devices agents believed would have proof of transactions. It also listed bank records and other records, including photos and firearms, firearm parts and accessories, and ammunition. The search was to be conducted between 6 and 10 p.m. on March 20th, and the officer was expected to give Malinowski an inventory of everything seized according to the search warrant. Malinowski was shot and killed during an exchange of gunfire with ATF agents Tuesday morning as they attempted to serve the search warrant. ATF officials said the agents were serving a search warrant at Malinowski's West Little Rock home around 6 a.m. when the fatal shootout took place. Federal officials said that Malinowski shot first from inside the home, at which point agents returned fire, hitting Malinowski multiple times. Agents with the Arkansas State Police have been investigating the shooting. An ASP spokesperson said Thursday that the agency's investigation into the incident is ongoing. Late Thursday, Malinowski's family released a statement on his death, calling it an unspeakable tragedy and questioning the government's use of deadly force on the raid. So, yeah, infuriating. This is infuriating. There were so many different times and places and situations that they could have arrested this guy, and upon his arrest, do the search warrant of his house and collect whatever they needed to collect. There was no reason to go busting into his house at 6 o'clock in the morning. It absolutely baffles me. This is,
well, yeah, there is. There is a reason to do that. And the reason to do that, as they did it, was to permanently remove him from doing it.
Laura, you're right. They could have sent him a letter and said, we need to have you come such and such place. We need to question you. And the redacted wording on the warrant probably read, "All hell, we fucked up."
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, why would they need to have a heavily redacted affidavit? What is so secret that they have to redact it? No, the public can't know this. What, is there some kind of national security fucking excuse going on here? What? I don't get it. Why is it so redacted?
And the way the news wrote it up, anybody with any citizen read that what the news wrote, they think that he was having a goddamn gunfight with the agents. No, he's waking up half asleep, 6 o'clock in the morning, and something broke in your door. What you supposed to reach for? A dish of candy?
Yep.
Yeah,
you know what,
ATF
Laurie?
version of trick or treat.
Yep. You know what, Laurie? It would be fun if we're talking about this, and if Sarge were here, he would go off on this, I think. Sarge.
Yeah, where is he? Bianchi. Go hunt him down for us. Tell him to call in.
But yeah, we're talking about this. What they did was they're saying, well, he's not an FFL, a federal firearms licensee, where he could sell those guns, right? Well, that's what they want. There's a rule or law that's, I don't know, languishing or whatever, that says that they basically want to do away with private sales, right? And basically, I can't sell a gun to, say, Laurie or a gunslinger and not have and not, they want me to be a FFL so that, oh, okay, I'm going to sell my 30-06 to Gunslinger, and I have to ask Gunslinger to do fill out a form and send it in and have 30 or 2-week notice before it can sell it to him. Whereas right now, you know, we can sell it to him, and there's no paper trail for them to follow with that gun. Same thing if you want to like give your gun to a niece or a child, a niece, a nephew, one of your children, you know, that type of thing. They want a paper trail on every gun in the country. All right, and that's the other thing, that this guy was selling guns and not having people fill out an FFL. Yeah, I mean, not an FFL, that form, that gun form, and getting them into the NICS thing, right? Oh, we want all the paperwork on all these guns, you know, to be floating around so that we can say, okay, we can find out exactly how many guns are there, so that when we decide to pass these laws that are actually unconstitutional, when we decide to pass the law and go after the guns, we know exactly where they are and how many they are. That's what they want.
Exactly.
Backdoor gun
registry.
registry.
There's no law say you buy a gun at 5 o'clock, you can't sell it at 9. In Missouri, you're only required to record a minimal amount of information to the person that you sell it, but you can identify them. And that's it.
Exactly.
Well, no giving.
You know, it is backdoor registration. You know, they're using all of these laws. You know, universal background checks. Well, there you go. There's another paper trail. Then having credit card companies, you know, flag firearms and ammunition purchases as a special category so they can track it that way. You know, and nobody seems, all these gun grabbers, all these anti-gun people never stop to really ask themselves, why does the government have any business knowing who has firearms, how many firearms they have, what make and models they have, how much ammunition they buy, you know, and, you know, it's none of the government's business. You know, they're making normal operations, things people normally do, you know, into a crime. It's absolutely appalling. It's absolutely sickening.
There's a reason the Japanese in World War II did not, they may have ran some whatever on the coast, but they didn't want to try and invade America proper. You know, they didn't want to try and go into America, into the middle of America to invade America, because they didn't know who had guns and how many guns that the people would have. You know, they didn't know. So, again, the whole thing about a gun behind every blade of grass, right? That's what the Japanese guy said, right, in World War II. There'd be a gun.
Exactly. The homeland.
Hell, you got a legislature.
Exactly.
You got a legislature.
We do have a Skype number raising their hand. Oh, sorry, Pianki. There's a Skype number raising their hand. I want to find out if it's Sarge or somebody else. So let's find out who we got. Hey, Skype number, you're on. Who do we got?
So can I assume you are speaking of the late Mr. Brian Malinowski?
Yes, sir. Hey, Sarge. Good to see you. I'm glad you made your way here.
Yeah, good to talk to you all, especially when you're talking about something as significant as this. The Biden administration is the most anti-gun administration. They're not anti-gun administration. They are anti-citizen administration because the framers of the Constitution never intended for the government, federal, state, or otherwise, to have a monopoly on the use of force. That was never intended, and in fact, everything in the Constitution mitigates against that. But the Biden administration is determined, to the extent they can get away with it, to try to make you think that the government is the only one supposed to have a monopoly on the use of deadly force. And Mr. Malinowski's attorney said that he was a gun enthusiast and a gun collector. He collected coins, too. He lived in an upper-middle-class suburb. He made $253,000 a year. Okay? He said that at worst, this is what his attorney said, at worst, Mr. Malinowski was a gun owner and gun enthusiast, stood accused of making private firearm sales to a person who may not have been legally entitled to purchase the guns. Now, I didn't know that it was a citizen's duty when he's selling his own property to make a background check on anybody he's selling it to. I could maybe see them having a case if he knowingly knew the guy was a felon not entitled to receive funds and sold it to him anyway. Even that's legally dubious. But to say that he had an obligation to run a background check on, says, where's that in the law? That's one thing when you're a gun runner and you're doing it for a living, and your clients are gang members, and you know that's what you're doing, and the reason they're coming to you is because nobody else will do it for them in the quantities they want, and you're capable of doing it. Then you're involved in a criminal conspiracy. I can see that. But simply selling a gun to someone without checking their background, I don't know what could possibly be construed as legal about that, to say nothing of serving a no-knock warrant early in the morning. It's inexcusable.
Well, not only that, getting the FFL ain't a cakewalk either. If you want to have a FFL operation where you have a room in your house where you have these guns on display, they want you to have a physical brick-and-mortar building, which is nothing more than another impediment of American citizens having access to weapons, or should I say guns. It's a bunch of bullcrap. And a whole lot of that went on with the advent of the possibility of Hillary Clinton becoming president. There was application for FFLs all over the place. And luckily, she didn't become.
Absolutely. There's not a war on guns. There's a war on the American people. Firearms are one of the bulwarks of our liberties and our freedoms. And it's like the canary in the coal mine as far as I'm concerned. When you got a president of the United States who repeatedly says your AR-15 is useless against, depending upon what time of the year he's saying it, an F-15 or your F-16. It depends on what this addled head remembers of the frontline fighters of the United States Armed Forces. Your AR-15 is no good against that. That lets you know you got a man who would not mind imposing tyranny on you the first opportunity he gets. It's frightening how many times that clown has made statements like that.
Well, I tell you something else.
I never heard a president of the United States say anything like, not even Barack Obama said anything like that.
That sheriff of that county need to not go without being reprieved either. And perform their responsibility. They was elected by the citizens.
Well, I really doubt that the ATF informed the sheriff they were making a no-knock raid. Now, whatever action the sheriff would take would have to be post this guy's execution.
Well, the information that was redacted probably was the fact that there was no magistrate that signed off on the warrant.
Oh, they never do that. They never do that anyway. I don't care where you go in the United States. The feds are saying they're enforcing the federal law. They're not going to go in any local magistrate permission to do it.
Yeah, well, they're going to go into somebody's house without a warrant.
They never do that.
That's why I'm saying this shit needs. That's what we need to have these amendments. Federal agent that shouldn't be come knocking on your door. What IRS agent? some probate for the U.S. Treasury. What the hell? If anybody can come knock on your door and demand information, demand your participation. What
well,
have we become to?
It's very disturbing.
And it's like I said. It's like I said earlier. You know, this kind of thing. You know, this situation did not have to happen. It not only put, you know, the suspect, you know, or the person that they're issuing the warrant to in danger by doing this, but it also puts the agent's life in danger. Wasn't one of them injured? Was it one of the ATF?
Yeah, one of them was injured, non-life-threatening injuries. Yeah.
Yeah,
but, you know
it could have been life-threatening, though. You know, probably got hit in the, hit with his.
They don't learn anything, apparently.
Hell, not only them, you got people on the other side of the block from flying bullets that has no eyes. It's like that legislature in Missouri or Illinois, I can't think which one, wanted to put a law where bullets have serial numbers on them. What the hell?
Stupidest thing you ever heard of.
Exactly. And hey, well, we got Sarge on. Now that I'm glad that Sarge is on. Here's a little clip. Colio Noir.
Well, you remember the idea of a ballistic registry where they would fingerprint the ballistic imprints of the guns that leave ballistic striation marks and cartridge cases and bullets. So they wanted to get the fingerprint of your barrel. They wanted to get the marks your extractor leaves on the cartridge rim, the firing pin's imprint on the primer, and the marks, the striation marks the chamber might leave on the cartridge case as it's ejected from the chamber. And they wanted to get all that to make a registry out of it, when all of that could be obviated by a simple barrel change and changing those component parts in the bolt and or the chamber after they take the ballistic fingerprints. It's easy to do. These people are stupid. And but the whole idea is not because it's effective. No, that's not the idea. It's not the idea at all. The idea is to inhibit and infringe upon your right to own firearms, make you jump through more hoops. That is the object. The issue is never the issue. The issue is the revolution. We got to keep remembering that. Well, I don't even want to give the premises any validity. I don't want to even give them that. Oh, they're doing it for a good reason. They just want to be able to catch criminals when they use their guns in a crime. Hell, most of the guns are stolen anyway. Most of them.
Exactly. I am going to play this clip from Colio Noir because this has to do with veterans. And I think it also, I don't think it's a coincidence. You know, so Colio Noir did this on March 19th. So, 5 days ago. And Sarge, I think this one will hit home with you. And I think that it's no coincidence that then just yesterday, the Department of Justice launches their National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center, $2 million going to this resource center to help support states that have red flag laws. I don't think these two things are not coinciding with each other. So I'm going to play this clip, about 5 minutes long or so. But Sarge, I think that this one will ring your bells. Put it that way. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, launch.
Apparently, 140 Democrats in the House of Representatives don't believe someone who risked their life to fight for this country in another country should be allowed to own a gun to protect their life in their own damn country. At this point, if you don't believe the anti-gun lobby owns the Democrat Party like a cheap suit, I don't know what to tell you. So here's what these little scoundrels are trying to do. You see, veterans who receive disability benefits can use those benefits how they see fit, but if they struggle with managing their finances due to mental or physical challenges, the VA may assign a fiduciary to oversee their funds. The VA calls it a precaution, but many veterans feel like it's unnecessary oversight, especially when you learn that if you are assigned a fiduciary to oversee your VA benefits, you can't own a gun.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I made that exact same face too when I found this out. And so did Senator John Kennedy, which is why he drafted and was able to get past the Kennedy Amendment in the Senate this year. This amendment would do away with the part of the bill that caused veterans who have been assigned a fiduciary to oversee their VA funds to automatically lose their gun rights. In response to the Kennedy Amendment, though, these Democrats in the House wrote a letter to the Secretary of Veteran Affairs urging him to do 3 things. Create an automatic process to seek a judicial order for veterans the department has found to be mentally incompetent for the purposes of appropriately adding them to the NICS background check system, i.e., come up with a workaround that does the same thing the Kennedy Amendment just got rid of. 2, complete a study on veterans who are determined to be mentally incompetent and veterans who self-delete or are involved in incidents of gun violence, i.e., create propaganda under the guise of a study to prove that veterans shouldn't have guns. And 3, make full use of state extreme risk protection order laws to flag concerning behaviors from veterans. So essentially, start a Salem witch veteran hunt using red flag laws to unconstitutionally take away a veteran's guns the moment he shows the slightest sign of distress from the war or battles we sent them to. Long story short, they want to weaponize mental health to take away veterans' 2A rights, as if many of them haven't lost enough. According to the VA, as of fiscal year 2020, more than 1.3 million veterans were receiving disability compensation for hearing loss, and more than 2.3 million received compensation for tinnitus, according to the Veterans Benefits Administration compensation report. I'm pretty sure a lot of this hearing loss is by way of unprotected gunfire. I already have a minor level of tinnitus myself, so protecting my hearing is important to me, and so is my shooting range experience. This is why the AKT1 blackouts, or the AirPods of the gun world as I like to call them, are my favorite wireless and Bluetooth in-ear hearing protection. They have a certified NR rating of 25 dB, 6-time hearing enhancement, auto noise blocking, and enhanced noise cancellation, perfect for indoor ranges, airplanes, and gyms, a 10-hour battery life, and if you wear them in combination with the AKT1 over-the-ear hearing protection, the certified NRR noise blocking rating goes up to 30 dB. I put a link in the description section of this video because trust me, you don't want to spend the next years hearing all day long.
You don't want that now, do you?
I know a ton of veterans, some with issues and some without, but one thing remains clear between all of them. They're not giving up their guns. Many of them depended on those guns to stay alive when they were fighting for their country. You really think they're going to just give up their life tool because they have PTSD as a result of the shit they experienced fighting for this country? Come on. Let's be smart about this. We all know the VA's track record for helping veterans who suffer from mental health issues as a result of their service to this country is absolute dog shit. Then, to add insult to injury, you want to slap a can't have a gun scarlet letter on them. What the is that? Then these Democrats tried to use the Maine mass shooting as a way to paint these veterans as ticking mass shooting time bombs by saying, we urge the department to make full use of state extreme protection order laws to flag concerning behaviors from veterans. The deadly mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine is a reminder of what can happen when red flag laws are not taken seriously. Seriously? If veterans were really a mass shooting issue, trust me, we'd blatantly know about it by now, and the carnage would be insurmountable. But it's not, because that's not what's happening. You don't go fight for your country just to come back and kill the people you were fighting for. And you don't use an extremely infrequent anecdotal event to typecast an entire group of people who fought for this country. Yes, the number of veterans who self-delete is atrocious. So instead of writing 4-page Aaliyah letters begging the VA to come up with new ways to take guns from veterans, how about y'all write a letter focusing on fixing the shortcomings of the VA when it comes to dealing with the mental health issues of veterans? We live in the most modern era known to man, and we've been going to war since that one guy killed his brother because God liked his brother better than him, and we still haven't figured out how to effectively treat PTSD and other mental health issues resulting from service in the military without treating our veterans like lepers? Come on. We're better than that. It doesn't take a genius to know that all this will do is make veterans that need it the most avoid getting the help. With all of the time and money you all have spent coming up with cute ways to restrict 2A rights, you could have come up with effective ways to treat the underlying issues. But when you're bought and paid for by the anti-gun lobby, everything, even the trauma some of our veterans have faced, looks like something to exploit for more gun control. Now, before you clicked off this video and go check out those ear pro that I was talking about earlier, I want you to do me a favor and click that subscribe button, and then you'll see a bell symbol. Hit that bell symbol. There'll be a drop down menu. Click the all, and you're good to go. That'll let you know anytime I post a video on my channel. And don't forget to leave a comment, like the video, and tell me what you think about what these Democrats in the House are trying to do to the veterans of this country.
So there you have it. I have a feeling Sarge will have some words about that.
Do you realize that 140 Democrats signed a letter against the Kennedy Amendment? 140 of them. 140. These are the same people who probably haven't said a word about illegal aliens owning farms with no background checks on them, no checks on whether or not in their home country they had any felonies or any mental diseases or anything else like that, because nothing about them is checked by the people waving them into the country. But people who serve their country honorably and are receiving veterans benefits are a particular subject for their scrutiny. This is beyond belief. The Democrat Party is the enemy of the people of the United States. Only they come up with stuff like this. Only they do. As a party.
Exactly.
Well, you get either a majority of them or most of them signing on to stuff like this. Everything they do is explicitly anti-liberty. Everything.
Do you remember when Senator Dianne Feinstein went out with her gun and her finger on the trigger of the gun in the press and stated that veterans were the most dangerous people in the country?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's always saying something else too. Because actually, she may not be wrong.
I do have Nathan raising his hand, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Nathan on in.
Veterans are the most dangerous people to their form of government, potentially.
Well, of course. You know, if you're a tyrant, if you're a tyrant and you're a Democrat and you want to restrict free speech, you want to restrict, and limit gun purchases and citizens' ability to own gun purchases, of course you're going to start systematically creating groups of people and calling them a threat. Veterans, oh, they're a threat. Why? Why do you think they're a threat? Because they fought for their country. They fought for our Constitution. They put their lives at risk. They of course, so of course they would be considered a threat, right? They're a threat to the tyrants that are trying to systematically take every single right we have away from us. Plain and simple.
Hey, Laurie, who won the Battle of Athens? Who was it?
Veterans.
That's right. World War II combat veterans mainly.
You goddamn right. The veterans got the ability.
They understand what's at stake, and they understand the potential that veterans represent.
Veterans got the ability to teach. Veterans got the ability to teach safety. Veterans got the ability to organize forces, retaliation forces. Veterans is very valuable when it comes down to a citizenry knowing how to defend themselves from the anarchical and tyranny of politicians today.
Absolutely. There's a lot of veterans that have their own businesses giving tactical training, not just gun safety training. It goes well beyond that. Veterans, how many veterans out there have their own businesses teaching tactical training to citizens, so that not only do we know how to safely use a firearm, but it's training people how to use that firearm in different scenarios and different situations. That's extremely valuable. And that's exactly what these anti-gunners want to get rid of. Oh, you have PTSD. Oh, you're depressed. That's what these red flag laws are all about. And that they want to use red flag laws. Why do you think they have this research center that they just unveiled? They just immediately after this $1.2 trillion spending bill comes out, now they're launching this federal Department of Justice research center for red flag laws to support these states. Why do you think that is? What do you think they mean by supporting the states that have red flag laws? That means the federal government going, hey, how can we utilize these red flag laws even more? How can you change these red flag laws to allow for taking away the guns of somebody for just about any reason? Oh, you're depressed? Your parents died or something and you're depressed? Oh, well, we better take those firearms away from you because, if you're depressed, you probably shouldn't have those firearms. So we better take them. And so that's what these, so you can see the writing on the wall where, yeah, okay, we might think that this red flag law that a state has is reasonably written, to encompass like the most extreme threat, but guess what? That's how the law might start out as. But what this research center, I think, is going to do is going to support states in changing their laws little by little, more and more, to include more and more, not exclude, include more and more and more justification, so that, guess what? What's going to happen? It's going to make a bad situation even worse. Because, if you're a veteran, and this is going to go beyond just veterans, that. And I mean, me, for example, I'm depressed. I'm unemployed. I'm struggling to try to find a fucking job. I don't know how I'm going to make my house payment in April. That kind of thing. All of that could be used as an excuse for a red flag law so that they could come and take my firearms from me. Even though I have no intention of using them for any kind of crime, I don't intend on hurting anybody with them, including myself. I don't plan on, shooting myself in the head or anything, but that doesn't matter. Just the simple fact. And then what is it going to do? It's going to discourage people from getting the mental health help that they need. If they're depressed, have PTSD, whatever the case is, if you're somebody that has any of those mental conditions and you need help, and you have firearms, guess what? You're going to be discouraged from getting that help. You're not going to want to go to a therapist or a doctor or anybody to get help for that. Why? Because that just means you're just opening up the door and inviting law enforcement to come in and go, hey, we got this red flag law order, this extreme risk protection order. We're going to take your guns. Now, you're broke. You can't afford an attorney. You can't afford the uphill battle of trying to clear your name and prove that you're not a risk anymore. This is their strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, look what they did to Joe Gibson. If that ain't a crime, Shane. And another thing, now we see the meaningful of this of teaching your young people, your kids, how to shoot and safely use a weapon. Rather than having a bowling club, have a family night out at the gun range. That's what's needed. You want your kids to be able to protect themselves. If not, they're going to lose that right. We see it going on all the time with this second constitution that these agency heads have created with these invalid rules that should have been voted on by Congress.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, I think
it's
they
getting to the point
accurately
where
summed up the greatest threat, and that is veterans who are liberty-minded. Because if anybody is going to oppose these tyrants when they just get completely out of control, it's going to be liberty-minded veterans. And they are right to be concerned about them if and when their diabolical plans are finally actualized. They better worry about veterans.
The one saying or phrase that they hate is this: from time to time, the tree of liberty needs to be watered by both patriots and tyrants alike. Tyrants hate that. Tyrants hate it.
Do. They expect people to do
tyrants
what they want
love to use the government and government authority to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much crap going on. I mean, oh my God. I mean, I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit because there's some other crap that I wanted to bring up too.
One other thing, guys, the whole January 6th thing. Remember what happened on January 6th? Before January 6th, what did the fucking mayor Bowser say? you are not allowed to bring guns into the city of Washington, D.C., basically making a rule that no guns are going to be allowed on January 6th, right? So that was an unconstitutional thing that she said in that town on that day. Now, the people that shouldn't have followed the rules followed the rule, but that was an unconstitutional rule that she said, well, you can't have a gun. We're not going to allow you in the city without a gun. And that goes back to that thing we were talking about earlier, Sarge, in the Old West, where, before the OK Corral, the rule was gun. You couldn't have allow you in the city. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So there you go.
Okay.
Speaking
people, of tyranny,
go ahead.
I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, guys, because there's still some more stuff I want to get into before our live show ends here. We got like 25 minutes or so. State Medicaid offices target dead people's homes to recoup their health care costs. This is another thing that pisses me off. This is an article from March 17th. As Salvador Legrande fought cancer and all the pain that came with it, his daughters promised to keep him in the white pitched roof house he worked so hard to buy all those decades ago. So Sandy Legrand thought it was a mistake when, a year after her father's death, Massachusetts billed her $177,000 for her father's Medicaid expenses and threatened to sue for his home if she didn't pay up quickly. The home was everything to her father, said Legrand at 57 years old. But the bill and accompanying threat weren't a mistake. Rather, it was part of a routine process the federal government requires of every state to recover money from the assets of dead people who, in their final years, relied on Medicaid, the taxpayer-funded health insurance for the poorest Americans. A person's home is typically exempt from qualifying for Medicaid, but it is subject to the estate recovery process for those who are over 55 and use Medicaid to pay for long-term care, such as nursing home stays and in-home health care. This month, a Democrat lawmaker proposed scuttling the cruel program altogether. Critics argue the program collects too little, roughly 1%, of the more than $150 billion Medicaid spends yearly on long-term care. They also say that many states fail to warn people who sign up for Medicaid that big bills and claims to their property might await their families once they die. So this is a case where I'm actually going to side with the Democrats on this. Because we're all, when we're working, part of our paycheck is going to pay for Medicaid. And Medicaid, that's what it's supposed to be for. You're not a rich person if you're on Medicaid. Medicaid is supposed to help people that are of, limited means financially with their long-term care, right? Right. So this is a way that the government is using to confiscate wealth. Yet again, this is how they do it. And it's absolutely appalling to think that, I have health insurance, and then if you're going to be subject to that kind of thing, I like that this article stated that people are not warned about this. Your elderly mom that's battling cancer and receiving medical care, and, Medicaid is paying for it, right? Well, by the way, every fucking thing your mom owns is going to be subject to help pay back for the health care costs. You're not going to inherit a goddamn thing. The next generation is not going to inherit the house, not going to inherit the assets in order to pay off the medical expenses. This is absolutely ridiculous. Then why the fuck do we have Medicaid to begin with? Why the hell do we have, taxpayers? We're paying for this. If you're going to implement that, then why? I don't understand this. they want their cake and they want to eat it too. So this story pisses me off.
Well, this is what they're trying to do.
You know, that could happen to my mom. My mom might have to go into a nursing home, you know, and she might have to have Medicaid to help pay for her care. You know, and that means that all of our assets, anything she has left, could very well be subject. And my sister and I, our family, won't receive jack shit in order to pay it back. That pisses me off.
Well, this is what I'm saying on this. It has always been the contention that death settles all debts. So all of a sudden now, oh no, it's like these timeshare schemes. You die, then the obligation goes on to your kids. That's a bunch of bull crap.
Well, hey, having B1 that is presently working on 2 estates at the same time, those estate monies that are set to be distributed cannot be distributed until after a 4-month waiting period, and the fact that you have to put a notice in the paper of the person's death so that any debtors can collect money out of the estate before the estate is distributed to the heirs.
It's called communism. Hello?
You got that right, Nathan.
Listen. But the reason I say it's communism is because everything's going to the top. You work all your life, you get your house paid off, and then all of a sudden the government owns your house because you needed medical care that you paid in all your life. Now, in Massachusetts, Obamacare was Romney Care. It was
Romney Care.
Ted Kennedy helped him establish what we know to be Romney Care, but it's Obamacare, and and here's the other part: 100% of the U.S. Senate, all them Republicans that ran on in 2010 on we're running to stop Obamacare, they voted after Ted Cruz's 21-hour, 19-minute filibuster, 100-0. Okay, so where is this Obamacare for this lady's mama, for your mama, whenever she's gone? Okay, the government gets to keep it, and they get to bill you by taking her home. It's communism. It's communism, and I just had to get my therapy on that. But the main reason I called in, and then I'm gonna hang up and keep listening. If anybody out there knows how to contact Trump or people on his team, get the message to him. We need a vice president serving under him that comes from the culture. We don't need a political citizen running for VP. We need real human beings from real life. And if you can, get to them the names Pianke and Sarge, because they need to have a place in his administration. They got too much to offer to be down here just talking about the experience they have. They need to be passing that on to America.
Well, you know, another thing, too, is just as grievous as what she's talking about. Is this
when did this show become political?
Huh?
I was bullshitting. I said, when did this show become political?
Well, another thing to go along
running
with what Lori's
candidate.
talking about. Yeah. Another thing to go along with what Lori's talking about is that infamous death taxes. Hell, from your very first paycheck, you pay into your savings account, money's taxed. Then when you die and you want to give it to your kids, oh, hell no, it has to be taxed as new income. Well, you've already paid taxes on it. It came out of your savings account. Now, when you die, they want to call it a death tax and make your kids pay taxes on it.
Well, that's what's happened to
Exactly.
all of the.
This is a wealth transfer.
That's what is
It's
happening
no
to all of the small. That's what's happened to all the small farmers. You know, Daddy has a farm. It's, you know, a couple hundred acres, and you know they've made a living off of it and everything. And Daddy dies, and he leaves it to his son to continue farming on, and the son has to sell it to pay the taxes on the value of the land.
Exactly. This is a big wealth transfer, you guys. There's no coincidence that as the baby boomers are dying off, the biggest generation, and their wealth should then get be inheritance for my generation. It's no coincidence that they are trying to siphon all of that in every fucking way they possibly can. They want every asset that the baby boomers have. They want to confiscate it. You know, they don't want us to be able to get an inheritance. They want our generation, my generation, to be even poorer, not get that. They want to confiscate that land. They want to confiscate those houses. They want to confiscate everything. That this is what tyrants do. And this is just an example of it.
Well, you remember, I think it was last night. We were talking about birth certificates, CUSIP codes, how much you are worth as a corporate entity, because that's what we are. Well, the corporation is just needs to get that value out of you. That's what they're doing, and they can't collect your value until after you're dead.
Y'all need to have Bruce Ray. Y'all need to have Bruce Ray Riggs on. Go to DirtyUncleSam.com, and this guy, man, he will just blow your mind with what you just said.
Right, and there's a reason why a particular book remains very prescient right now, and it's Frederick Hayek's The Road to Serfdom. Because that's what they want to do. They want to make us they want to make the populace like it was in the Middle Ages. There was the kings, and then there was the serfs. That's it. Two things. Two different whatever, and it's like the stratas of the people who were in those things couldn't get together. You couldn't go up or down, right? You couldn't go up. You couldn't get rich. You were born into whatever you were in. If you were a king or a queen or royalty or lord or lady, whatever, you were a lord or lady. If you were poor, you were poor, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you made the money or if you wanted to. You stayed where you were. You were born where you were, and you stayed there your entire life. That's how they want it.
No, they want to get us into those 15-minute cities. You have a farm? Oh, well, we're going to make damn sure that your kids that would inherit it can't afford it, so they got to sell it and move into that. And I do have another Skype number raising their hand. I want to find out who we got. So Skype number, I am bringing you on, and let's find out who it is. Hello?
It's John Doe, and I vote for Ben
I
Carson.
had a feeling it might be you.
Ben Carson is
hey,
the
John Doe.
VP. We got to get Trump to vote for Carson as the VP.
Yes. We need real people up there.
That would be good.
Here's what happened when you put a real person up there. We've been in wars. We've been in entanglements all around the world for generations. Trump comes in, and it took a while, but he got us completely out. We were not in war any place. Biden hits, and guess what? We got wars going all over the place now. More wars now than there was then. We need to get real humans in there that have real life experience.
Yep. I mean, there's so much crap going on. Let's see. So, on to other things. Like I said, I mean, I really wish I had the gold live thing. So much stuff that I couldn't fit. I'm going to switch gears here.
Okay.
And California revises 2023 job growth down from 325,000 to just 50,000 jobs as deficits rise. So this is just one example, and I remember a while ago I was talking about how the unemployment numbers had to be downgraded, like systematically month after month. All of these, job growth is so good. All the stuff that Biden's bragging about. We created so many jobs. And what people aren't aware of is that all of those numbers are being downgraded systematically. And this is really significant for California to go, they were boasting we had 325,000 new jobs. And then now it's been revised. No, really, actually only 50,000 jobs. And that's just California. And this is happening state by state by state by state. And I remember even talking about last year when all of these, job numbers were looking so good. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I was even talking about this is bullshit. There is no way, that these job numbers are as good as they say they are. And so, so California revised job growth for 2023 from 325,000 jobs to just 50,000 jobs, suggesting that the state's $73 billion deficit for the coming year may be even larger than earlier estimated. With a rising unemployment rate, this means there are fewer workers paying taxes and more individuals receiving unemployment benefits, which will both reduce tax revenue and increase spending. Well, duh. And this is happening state after state after state. So, and when we see these job numbers that have been coming out, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, unemployment only went up like 0.1%, but we've created all of these jobs, so, they'll claim that there was like a 3% increase in job growth, and yet only like 0.1 increase for unemployment. This doesn't add up. And I've even talked about this before, even last year. I'm like, these numbers just don't fucking add up. And here we are, state by state by state, more and more and more. They are revising these job numbers down and down and down. Because why? They were purposely bloated. We've been purposely lied to. People like me that have been struggling to find a job, to actually get a fucking interview in all my job applications that I put out. People like me were just crazy. I'm just lazy. There's tons of jobs out there. You're just lazy. You're not doing enough. Bullshit. Now it's coming out more and more systematically that those job numbers have been fudged from the very beginning. I believe our unemployment rate is a hell of a lot higher than what they're reporting, because they're not including a lot of people like me who are, we're not on the unemployment roll anymore, so they're not including me. I think there's a hell of a lot more long-term unemployed people that lost their jobs due to this fucking COVID bullshit, shutdowns and everything that stole my job from me. There's a lot more people out there like me, but they're not going to report on it. MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, not even fucking what's-her-face McDaniel that was the head of the RNC that's now going on NBC. Not even they're going to fucking talk about this. Yeah, can you tell I'm a little bit charged up tonight, you guys? I was quiet on Robert's show on Friday, and I was kind of quiet on Donnie's show last night too. And like here I am, I was just revving my engines for my show tonight. Anyway, so you can comment on that for a little bit. I'll shut up.
All right, Laurie, I put a clip into the chat room that before your thing shuts down, your switchboard or whatever shuts down, I'd like for you to play this clip, and it's a song that describes what they actually want to do to the American economy. And you're right. And the reason why they put this thing, the reason why they are doing this thing with the jobs numbers is they want to make Obama try and make Obama. It's not working, but they want to try and make Obama. I keep saying Obama because he is really running the nation.
Yeah,
Biden. They want to make Biden. Biden. They want to make Biden look good because they think it's going to help him get elected. They don't They don't get through their head that the more they do to Trump, the more they make him a martyr, the more his numbers go up. They don't get that. They don't understand that. So whatever they're doing to try and help Biden, it's not working. It's not going to work. And that includes fudging the numbers, the jobs numbers.
It looks like Daniel and Kathy are raising their hands, so I'm going to bring you guys on. Nathan is still on the line, and then Joe Gibson, I'm bringing you on because I think maybe I triggered something. Hey, Daniel, how you doing?
Hey, we wanted to get on before we couldn't get on. But
yeah,
we are listening. We are going to chime in. We're biding our time.
Awesome.
And I hate to say biding like that.
Less than 3 minutes to call in. So if you're out there and you're listening, call in now as we go into the bonus hour. Otherwise, you're not gonna be included. The audio's gonna cut off here in about 2 minutes 30 seconds. So call in 563-999-3485 in order to be included as we continue on into the bonus hour. So thanks, Daniel. And then, of course, I did bring in Joe Gibson as well. What comments do you have? Obviously, I'm a little charged tonight.
Well, just get ready to pay your reparations. That's all. Pay your reparations.
Hey, Lorianne.
Yes, sir.
Previous shows I brought this up a long time ago in the sense that it's all this stuff you're talking about as far as the jobs and trying to get a job and all. With the AI, it's just going to make it easier for them or whoever's in, power looking for the higher people to isolate people based on their psychological and political disposition. And as long as you do not allow in your personality or your political persuasion them to continue to have dominance in being then they're not even going to give you an interview. I brought this up. This is part of the consolidation effort to push out the little guy and make sure that the globalists have control over everything. Because think about
Absolutely.
It, the small fry guy can't compete with all these government regulations that they keep wanting to push on them for whatever 6 foot distance, with COVID, and you got to wear masks and you got to disinfect all this stuff. Well, it runs the little guy out of business. So therefore, the bigger guys get to, eat up all that market share. And then with them doing all these psychological testing and using these AI programs for keyword searches and different things in resumes, they do not even give a flying flip that you're, qualified for the job. They want to make sure that your political and psychological disposition is lined up for them to continue to manipulate and control and put all the rest of us conservatives or whatever persuasion you are that doesn't toe their line out on the bread line, I guess. And so you'll give up your liberties and your freedom.
I mean, some of you, if you're Facebook friends with me, some of you might have seen my post that I made the other day. So I spend over a half hour applying for this job, and it's in a similar industry. And I thought, I'm like, oh, hey, here's one that I might actually, maybe I stand a chance at, right? tier 1 technical support in a similar industry. I'm reading the job description. I got all the qualifications that they're looking for. So I'm like, hey, you know, I'm a match, right? So I spend over a half hour going to, you know, I saw the ad on Indeed, but then I went to the company website. That's the best thing to do is to go to the company website, to their career page, and apply directly there, you know. And, you know, so I upload my resume. I, you know, upload my cover letter that I customized and stuff, you know, for the position. Put in, you know, answer all their questions, you know, am I a U.S. citizen, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so I spent a half hour doing this, and then finally, okay, I'm all good. I submit it. And literally, in 4 minutes later, after I hit submit and put in my application, I get an email rejection. After careful review of your application, we have decided not to move forward with you as a candidate for this position. Now, this is at 7:30 at night Pacific time. And I'm, you know, this is AI at work right here, folks. You know, and I'm like, this is what I'm fucking dealing with. You know, I have no idea what it is that the AI decided I was not qualified. No human being is going to see my resume. No human being is going to see my cover letter. You know, no human being is actually going to see that, hey, we have an actual interesting and possibly perfectly qualified person. As a matter of fact, I'm probably overqualified for the position. You know, I don't know. We don't know. You know, this is AI at work. And so not only is it robbing me of a job opportunity, it is robbing that company. AI is robbing a company. Their own tools that they're using is robbing them of perfectly good candidates. A human being would look at my resume and look at my cover letter and go, maybe we should at least get an initial interview with this person. A human being would be able to make that kind of a decision, but no, you know. And so then what's going to happen? You want to understand why your company has such high turnaround, why you hire new hires and then they don't stick around for more than 6 months, and now you have to invest in training somebody else over and over and over again, instead of somebody like me who worked for 14 and a half years at a company, and I'm actually really would like to work for a company again long term and get good at it, get good at my job, get good at understanding how the company operates and improve their processes and all that stuff. Somebody that's in it for the long term. No, can't have that. You know, your AI bot is fucking robbing you of perfectly good people and is going to rob you of expenses to train new hires because you have a fucking revolving door, all because your AI bot is blinding you to seeing perfectly qualified candidates like me. And that's what pisses me off. This is what I'm dealing with. I posted it. I don't normally post it, but this stuff happens, you know. I know it. Either I don't get a response at all or I get a rejection letter, you know. But this was so immediate. Literally 3 to 4 minutes after hitting the submit button. And I'm like, how can you possibly say that you carefully reviewed my application? Bullshit. You know, no human eyes actually reviewed it.
Hey, Lori.
That's what pisses me off.
Lori Ann, you know, if I was you, I would make this suggestion. Reapply at a different time of day. Do it again. Fuck with that AI piece of shit. Make it so that the AI gets tired of seeing your application come across.
That's not going to work.
No, that's where
the AI will just reject me. Actually, what I'm thinking of is I want to do a little research. I want to poke into not who the hiring manager is, but who the director of IT is at that. And send them an email and attach my resume, attach my cover letter, and explain to them that, hey, I think your AI bot rejected me. I have no idea why, but I wanted an actual human person that has skin in the game. You know, you're the director of IT. You know, I would be working under you in your department if I were to get hired. I thought maybe, you know, an actual human being might like to see my resume. I won't put it like that. You know, I'm not going to be hostile about it. I'll be professional, of course. But that's what I'm kind of thinking of is going, you know, but then at the same time, it's like, you know, it's like I want to bring people, you know, a lot of people in IT are embracing this AI bullshit and not realizing, you know, that you're robbing yourself of a perfectly good person. I'm not in it for 6 months. You know, I don't want to get a job where I'm so miserable that I quit within 6 months and I waste my time and I waste the company's time in the process. Apparently, you know, the new go thing is to do exactly that and have this revolving door. And you know why? Because the people in HR, the people in talent acquisition, they want to keep their jobs too. So by having this revolving door, it keeps their job secure because they're constantly having to process new hires, constantly having to, you know, get them through their training that they need to take and blah, blah, blah. And it keeps their job secure. Well, guess what, HR? Guess what, talent acquisition? The AI that you're employing is going to steal your job too. It's only a matter of time. The AI is going to replace you.
Well, that's why I'm lobbying Louisiana legislatures that AI should be taxed at the state and local level, an employee tax. If it's used 24 hours, that should be 3 shifts. The same that an employee would have withheld out of their check for taxes that goes to maintain infrastructure, to provide for public safety, provide for schools. That AI, the robots, anything that takes the place of a live human being, employee, they need to pass that tax on to that technology. Because if you don't, hell, you won't be able to ride on your road. And the employer still makes out. They don't have to pay no vacation. They don't have to pay no sick pay. They don't have to pay workers' compensation. And on top of that, I put a surcharge on AI robots and the other means that's taking the positions of human beings. What are we going to do? Put a human being on a pedestal and come by and throw coins at it?
You put anything or any man on its pedestal, you need to issue him a toilet seat.
No, I should be paid for the time it takes for me to actually submit my fucking application to begin with. I'm not being paid for that. Spent over a half hour, doing my diligence, and your AI rejected me within minutes. How about not a tax, but how about reimbursement for my time? I took the time to apply to your fucking job, and your AI rejected me immediately. You know, you're gonna
hey,
apply
Nathan.
that. You know,
I don't mean to cut in, Lorianne. I'm trying to get a website.
You're not paying all that. Go ahead.
Get a what?
No, I'm not trying to cut in. Y'all continue. I'm just trying to get a website from Nathan. He said somethingwade.com. It was a website about 30 minutes ago. Nathan?
Yeah, refresh my memory on what I was saying.
It was somethingwade.com. It was something about Sarge we were talking about. Lorianne said she played a clip. And then you said, go to this website, it'll blow your mind.
God knows wow, I'm going to have to think that one through because I let it slip.
Okay, that's cool. Just put it in the chat if you can think of it.
Yes. I know.
Okay.
I'm sitting here in the middle of something too, so I don't multitask real good. So I'll go into the website.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then
No, it's fine.
I do
It's
have
fine.
another Skype caller.
While we're talking,
I do have another Skype caller raising their hand. I want to find out who we got. Sorry to interrupt you guys, but I do want to find out who the Skype number is.
Hit it up.
Okay, we got another Skype number. Who do we got on the line?
Hello, Lorianne. Hello, Sarge, and hello, the rest of the gang. How are you guys? This is Brother Mike.
Brother,
hello,
Brother Mike.
Hello. You know, since you
Hi, Brother Mike.
AI, you know what happened because the AI is rejecting woman's name. You know, somehow it's programmed, or maybe doesn't like the woman to be hired, and it was rejected right away. You know, so there are many ways that AI reject your applications all the time. And, you know, for example, Amazon, you know, everything, you know, is AI. And they want to hire the people. And, you know, for example, your name. Okay, Lori Ann, and whatever is your family name is, maybe the AI is stupid, doesn't like that last name, for example. That's number one. Number two, your name, first name, and last name, so those are the two things. And, you know, there's, for example, they don't like the company that you work for. AI knows which company you work for, right? And they reject you. And there's another thing, age discrimination too. AI knows exactly what you, because they ask everything from you, from head to the toes. So that AI say, why we should hire, for example, Lorianne at this time? You know, we have to pay her more money, and we have to, you know, she's, you know, in certain age. I don't say that you're old, so remember that you're young.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be 51 this coming Saturday. So my birthday's this coming Saturday. I'll be 51, and age discrimination is a thing. And you know, they might not know my birth date, but they can tell from my resume. I mean, 14 and a half years at one company. And then I include the previous company that I worked for where I did, like, server administration, and I was in charge of a full, like, system ramp-up, like new server, new switches, new networking, everything like that. So that's relevant when it comes to IT. So they can tell based on just my experience that, hey, we're dealing with somebody that's older. And the thing is, though, it's like you would think I would be more desirable because I'm going to be 51 years old. I ain't going to be taking off time for maternal leave. I'm not having no kids, okay? You know?
Right.
I'm not going to have to take time off for that. You know,
you say that now. You say that now.
Oh, no, there's no kids. There's no kids in my future. Hell no. So you would think that, you know, that would actually be a savings to them because, you know, and I don't have kids. I'm not going to be taking time off of work because there's parent-teacher conferences, or to take my kid to the doctor because they're sick or they broke their arm on the fucking, you know, monkey bars or some shit. You know, I mean, I don't have those kinds of things for them to worry about, you know, so you would think I would be more desirable, not less.
No, absolutely, you're right. And also, because they can hire young ones, of course they pay them less. And the young one, what they do, you know that. All the time talking to the boyfriends, family members, all the time. I said they don't even work, you know. But they insist somebody, for example, like you, like others that are very good, they hire, they don't hire, but they immediately hire the young 18, 19, 20 years that They don't know Generation X. They don't know nothing, and they keep all the time busy with sexting, etc., while they work. You see what I'm saying?
Well, it used to be back when people didn't want to hire people with experience from another corporation. They would rather hire somebody young that doesn't know anything, so they could train them in the way they want their job to be done.
Absolutely.
And they wouldn't bring in any ideas from someplace else.
Absolutely, you're right. Yes, and even if they don't work good, it's okay because they pay them less anyway. So.
Well, you know what? That's a good That's a good interview question. Get me in on an interview. If you're the hiring manager, get me in on an interview and ask me that. Hey, I see that you have 14 and a half years at this company in a similar industry. How that's a good question to ask. Do you think that you will be able to learn how our company operates and what our company needs versus trying to, utilize how the previous company did things? Are you going to be stuck in that mentality? That's a good interview question right there. And I can flat out say, no, actually, I want to learn how your company does things, how your company does, what your processes are. I want to learn the technology that you use because every company is different. Every company uses different things. There's some similarities, yes, of course, but, there's 1,000,001 ways for, systems to be managed. There's 1,000,001 ways to configure computers. There's all kinds of different, help desk software that might be utilized. It's all different ways of doing the same stuff, basically, and I'd want to learn that. I'm not stuck in how things used to be at the company I used to work for. I mean, enough time has passed now that so much has changed that I would, that's why I don't mind starting at a tier 1 level, because that's the best way to learn how the company does things is at a tier 1 level. Yeah, I might be overqualified based on my experience, but guess what? The best experience you have is working at that tier 1 level and working your way up.
And also they keep saying that your resume mistakes that can land your application in an AI filter. So somewhere in your application, maybe you change it as the other brother said, that go ahead and reapply. Please reapply and then again fix something. Maybe something that AI didn't like it, a word or something in your resume. But don't get encouraged. Go ahead, reapply multiple times until you see, hopefully you can bypass the AI and hopefully you go to the next step.
Hey, can you see if you can refresh my memory on what I was talking about when I quoted a website?
The last I remember what you were saying when you quoted a website was how to get in touch with Donald Trump to get Sarge or Bianchi picked as the vice president of the United States.
Yeah.
You asshole.
Yeah, if anybody has that.
You know what? You know what you would do if that happened? You'd ruin those two guys.
I would rather them up there getting the president's ear than, you name a politician. I would rather somebody with real life experience.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's kind of where you were when I heard you mention a website, and I can't remember what website it is, and neither can Kathy.
Ouch. I was trying to I know I got, and I wouldn't have made up something.
Go back and listen to the show. Jeez.
I'll do that.
Yeah, and I think you guys have each other's email addresses too. So if you refresh your memory, you can always email each other, right?
Yeah.
Nathan, do you have that? Yeah, pretty sure that you guys both have each other's.
Exactly. I just want to say one thing while we're talking about websites. Thank you, Donnie, for getting me that website from last night. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was good information.
Yeah, we do have Donnie and Cinnamon and Robert, Conservative Nation Media, all kicking back, just listening on the line, but they're on the switchboard. So Donnie did hear that shout out.
And I got a bone to pick with Donnie anyway.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Daniel. Hey, Daniel.
Yes. Yes.
Did you see on their website where the range of distributed money for farm subsidies, it goes from millions all the way down to about $6?
I've seen it in the trillions is what I saw.
Well, yeah, that's the states, but individuals receive anywhere from the millions all the way down to $6. And
Are
even
you
the United
serious?
States Department, yeah, just keep on going, get down to about the number 900, and you start running to the end.
Yeah, I looked up the counties. Can you look up individuals? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay, because I looked up counties.
Even the U.S. Department of Agriculture receives a damn farm subsidy. I don't know how that works out.
Are you serious?
Yeah, you got it there at your disposal. Check it out.
Yeah, I love that website. Yeah, because I was able to look up my own little Limestone County, and I saw exactly to the penny how much they're getting for farm subsidies and all this and that. You know, I was like, and it wasn't in the trillions, but now I think California was in the trillions. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
no, I didn't get down to the individuals. I need to look that up.
Yeah, on the left side of the page, you got a column there talking about recipients.
Okay.
Check it out.
All right, gotcha. Okay.
What are you guys talking about?
Farm
what's this
subsidies
website?
that go to individuals. Anytime you have an agriculture product, even if it's just tomatoes, and you sell them to the public, you consider it a farm, and you can apply for farm subsidies.
Oh, lovely.
But it's so much money
They say we're going to digital currency anyway, so that's what they say. They supposed to say this week they're going to start doing the transition, so the reset.
Here goes nothing. I did intend on playing the Ron Paul Tucker Carlson interview, and Joe Gibson, I'm glad that you're on the line because I know that you're a Ron Paul fan. But I wanted to play at least the first 15 minutes. Like I got the full clip of 51, but I did just put the link of the full interview. But I wanted to play at least the first 15 minutes of it because it really is a good interview. So if you're in the chat room, I put the link to the full interview. But like I said, I'd like to play the 15 minutes before the recording stops, and of course we'll have some discussion afterwards. Not to totally interrupt, so stick around. I do want to play 15 minutes, the Ron Paul interview. I was waiting for it because I knew it happened, but it took a while before it got published, and then it took a little while for somebody on Rumble to post the full interview and stuff. So, but it was such a really good interview. I really encourage all of you to go to Rumble, counter Congressman Ron Paul for the full 51-minute interview. It was a very good interview. But this is the first 15 minutes of it, and I wanted to play it because, as you all know, I truly believe that Ron Paul is the best president we never had, but should have. And if we had 8 years of Ron Paul as president, I think things would be a hell of a lot different than they are right now. And so in honor of that, I'm going to go ahead and play this. Stick around. This is the first 15 minutes of that interview. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, and launch.
It started to dawn on a lot of people, even people who are not paying attention, say 6 months ago, that the war in Ukraine is a big deal. It's not what they told us it was. It's not good for Ukraine and the people who live in that sad country, and it's not good for the United States, or for that matter, for the West. In fact, it's likely to be, in retrospect, a turning point in the history of the West, and not for the better. Who could have seen this coming? Who could have known, say, 10 years ago that actually U.S. activity in Ukraine was not an effort to bring freedom to the Ukrainians, but was actually a massive intel operation designed to draw the United States into war with Russia for reasons that are even now not clear? Who could have seen that? Well, actually, one person did see that 10 years ago, and that person was Ron Paul. But don't take our word for it. Here he is in 2014.
I speak more from the perspective of the United States taxpayers, and it doesn't serve our interests. We've already spent $5 billion over the last 10 years trying to pick and choose the leadership of Ukraine, and then we participated in the overthrow of the Yanukovych government, and this is when this recent stuff really stirred up. But we've been involved too much, and I take a non-interventionist foreign policy position. It's not our business. It doesn't serve anybody's interest. It's part of the same thing that led us into the disaster in the Middle East. A lot of people die, and a lot of money is spent, and we're still suffering the consequences of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and there's the threat of the war in Syria. We don't need another threat. The American taxpayers don't want it, and our government thinks they can get away with, well, I know the people don't want a war yet, but we're going to play games, and we're going to threaten Russia, and we're going to put on sanctions. And they fail to recognize that we have $500 billion of investments in Russia. Russia has $450 billion invested in the West, and all we're doing is trying to stir up more trouble. It makes no sense whatsoever. So it makes a lot of sense for us to mind our own business and let somebody over there solve their own problem.
Be honest. Be honest. Were you paying close attention to Ukraine in 2014? We weren't. Most people weren't. And as a result, this country got dragged, without even knowing it, into one of the pivotal conflicts in modern history, to our grave disadvantage. The question is, how did Ron Paul, former congressman from Texas, how did he get that right? How did he know that? Why did he know to pay attention to Ukraine? And not just Ukraine, to monetary policy, to the state of our economy, to the state of our country, to the state of the West. How did he know before the rest of us knew? Maybe because his principles haven't changed in about 60 years. So we thought it would be a good idea to spend a little time with the man himself, to allow him a victory lap, a well-deserved victory lap, but also to probe him a little bit on how did you see things that nobody else did. So we are honored, truly, to have former Congressman Ron Paul in studio now. Dr. Paul, thank you very much.
Tucker, great to be with you.
So I've spoken for you just a moment ago, but let me just ask you directly, how in 2014 did you see what so many others, including me, did not, that this was a very big deal, what was happening in Ukraine, and that it might end very badly for us?
Sometimes the people who are running the operation gives you an idea, like Victoria Nuland and Jeffrey Pyatt. You think, what are those people doing? But they're such an example of bipartisanship.
Yes.
They can work with both of them, and they're the worst kind of warmonger. But all you have to do is you don't have to know all the details. I've tried to be very cautious, especially in economics. Well, I was this, and this, and next month there's going to be such and such happen. In Austrian economics, we're taught that you don't know exactly when things are happening, but you can see things coming. It's the same way. You might be able to see our foreign policy coming if you want to go back and observe what happened at the beginning of the last century,
yes.
With the progressive movement. So the hints are there. I think I think what has helped me over the years is I'm curious, most people are, but a lot of people aren't that curious.
Yes.
I want to know why it happened, because still the question I happen, like recent things happen. I said, who's going to benefit? Who benefits from these bombs being dropped? Who benefits? So I'm very curious, and then I don't try to know everything, because I think that timing and elements and all this. But I'm always impressed that there are people awakening. They wake up and they say, this whole thing about audit the Fed, that came out of a speech I gave to the University of Michigan, and that was early in the presidential things. And it was the crowd, those college kids, and I worry because I'm going to a liberal campus. I don't know what they'll think of me. And they started saying, end the Fed, and they took out Federal Reserve notes, and they were burning Federal Reserve notes. So I figured, there's somebody's missing the boat, because these kids know a lot more than they're giving credit for. I've changed my mind totally and completely, because there are a lot of bad examples in college. There's a lot of junk going out there.
Yes.
A lot of bad professors. Did you know that?
I've heard that, yes.
A lot of bad professors. So I'm very impressed. Young people have a more open mind, and sometimes with a blanket accusation, which I should be cautious with, I much rather talk to young people who are curious than the people who belong to the Chamber of Commerce.
I agree with you.
Because the Chamber of Commerce people symbolize the lobby.
Of course they do. And they have economic interests that prevent them from thinking honestly. I had that experience. I was just saying off air at one of your speeches probably 20 years ago. I'd never seen you speak before, and you went off about the Federal Reserve. And I remember thinking, what an esoteric subject. I knew nothing about it. I thought only crazy people cared. But again, I was completely ignorant about monetary policy at the time. And I was shocked by how much the crowd loved it. They were completely tuned in. They thought it was really important. Why would the average person 20 years ago have a better sense of that than, say, me, who was paid to follow the subject but wasn't? How did people know?
I got it from literature. You could read about it. We didn't have an internet. We didn't have the radio or TV giving us good information, but it was out there. For one group that helped me a whole lot was Leonard Reed, the Foundation for Economic Education.
Yes.
I knew him, and he was a true believer. He was a dignified person and very likable, and he talked about process, how you reach people. And but he was very, very libertarian in his own way, but he was sort of an intellectual, and he influenced me a lot. So I read everything he did, and he did a lot of literature. But the follow up of that was, of course, the Mises Institute, and I was part of that, and I think, I think they're important people. I know people on TV are really important.
so important.
So important. But there are a lot of people that are important. I think the ideas are the most important, and they come and go, but the ideas make all the difference in the world. I mean, I look at the need for the ideas on how our country came about. You know, Thomas Jefferson and others that knew exactly what they were talking about. But we don't have many Thomas Jeffersons around anymore. So, but there's more people. There are influence there, but there are more. But the underground, the silent majority, the remnant. I believe in the remnant both in a philosophic and a religious sense. When things deteriorate, there's always somebody there that's going to gather together, 10, 12, 15, 200, or 500. They gather together and they talk about the real things that are important. And the remnant, I think, is much bigger than anybody ever realized. And I think when I walked into those stadiums, I don't know how many times I would say, where did these people come from? I was totally amazed.
I thought the same thing.
Because, I remember my goal was never to be in politics. I had no desire to be in politics, but I wanted to use politics to spread a message of personal liberty.
Yes.
And that was my goal. So that was the whole reason that I got involved. And evidently there were other people looking for the same thing. And I was impressed with how many people there were, and I got to the point where I thought young people basically were being ridiculed and made fun of, and they still get it, and some of them deserve it. But they're still young people, very good and intellectual, and they, you know, even back, it's been a while since I was a candidate. When I would mention the remnant, they knew exactly what I was talking about.
Yes.
People who gather together for ideological reasons, and it's no. It's nobody looking for, to be a good lobbyist and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And Washington is so bad that somebody said, "What? How did you ever survive it?" I said, "Well, I said that I never became an optimist. I never said I'm going to cure the world. I thought the ideas were important, and that's what I wanted to do because I was very selfish, because I thought it made me feel better talking about something I believed in."
Yes.
And then when I saw some kids at Berkeley and other schools getting up and saying, and the Fed, well, liberty is not dead at all. I think it just gets reignited, and I think we're in the early phases of that. But I also believe we have to go through rough, tumbled times, because the price always has to be paid. The price in the sense, how do you liquidate the debt? You know, we can't walk away from that debt.
Well, how do we liquidate the debt?
The market will liquidate it. And the way the market liquidates it is what they'll demand is, like the person that wants $50 hourly wages.
Yes.
You print money. And every time you print money, the value of the dollar goes down. So the value of the debt goes down. You just a theoretical thing. If you double the money supply and prices go up 50%, it doesn't work that way. But if you do that, the real debt it goes down. So it's a theft. It's a tax. It's evil.
So you inflate your way out of it.
Yeah, and that's what will happen. Because what won't happen is the people are going to get together and all of a sudden said, "Ron, you need to go back." And yeah, sure. We need to go back and get more people. And, we do have some very good people in Congress, but they're pretty lonely too.
Yes.
And they're very lonely. But I think I tell people, you're not going to get 12, 24, or 100 new members of Congress. The system is so embedded with bankruptcy and corruption that that's not going to work. But I'm still an optimist, because I think where it counts, where the people are studying and understanding, and they were ahead of us. I think they were ahead of me, because they said, and the Fed, it's fiat money, and so they're well along the way, and it's more available now than ever before, this information.
Yes.
So I always figure that if somebody will listen, I'll talk. But like I said, I in a way do this for sort of selfish reason, because I want to do it. I get some benefit, emotional and philosophic benefit by doing it, but never as much as I expected. I mean, I always got more than I ever expected, because there's more people out there wanting to change their mind. I still get hundreds and hundreds of letters. The neatest story I get are young people writing to me that they've started their own organization, and there's a freedom organization, and they're very creative. And at the end of my speeches, I used to talk about, if you're listening and you agree with this, I think you have a higher moral responsibility than somebody that just doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
That you have the responsibility to put it out there, and that I think is a lot of them took me at my word, and they have started their own organization. And I think you can't stop it. An idea whose time has come can't be stopped by armies. Right. And I strongly believe that. So ideas are powerful, and I sort of, I didn't ever want the political career, because the goal of it, the thing of it is, if you want to be chairman of the banking committee, you don't bash the Fed.
I've noticed.
So it's but I think every issue we deal with, you can look at it the same way, whether it's personal liberty, whether it's the foreign policy, or whatever, or monetary policy. So, but the foreign policy is the big deal, you know.
Well, so I want to ask you. Well, before I ask you about that, I just want to follow up on one thing you said. You said you speak to the remnant, and no matter how bad things get, there is always a remnant of people who understand what's going on and who find each other, which I love, and I think is true. But you said it's not just a political or practical consideration for you; it's also a spiritual principle for you. What did you mean by
Well,
that?
I think my spiritual beliefs, which I don't carry on sleep.
I know, but I know they're sincere.
I think that that's the same principle. You know, the non-aggression principle.
Yeah.
I think more Christians should know about non-aggression.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. The internet is crowded with interesting things that don't really matter. On TCN, we attempt to bring you interesting things that actually do matter, and a lot of them. Interviews, long form and short, videos, documentaries. You can find all of it on tuckercarlson.com, and we hope you will.
Okay, so that was the first 15 minutes of the 51-minute interview with Ron Paul. And I think it was great. You know, I watched the whole thing, and I would have probably played it tonight, but then maybe everybody would have fallen asleep. But I just love it. Like, liberty is not dead. I love that. He's said that for a long time, and I think that, you know, I really think that if anybody ever wants to learn anything about liberty, you gotta pay attention to Ron Paul. You know, if there is time worth investing, it is listening to Ron Paul's speeches in Congress, from his final speech to even in the campaign days, when he actually talked about, like, why we might have been attacked on 9/11, you know, why we're hated so much in so many countries, and it's because of our foreign interference, time and time again, overthrowing governments, having bases everywhere, blah blah blah, you know, and just all of these things that make sense. He talks about Austrian economics. He talks about when you listen to the full interview, you know, Tucker asked him, like, you know, what is this really going to look like if we ended the Fed? And yes, you know, it would be painful, but yet we're in pain right now, and it's only going to get worse. You know, it's like, what pain do you want to agree to? Do you want to deal with continued pain, with the continued destruction of the dollar as it is, with the continued boom and bust that the Federal Reserve instigates by controlling the interest rates that affect every single person, and the devaluation of the dollar and inflation to no end? You know, like, what's the end result? We're going to be in pain no matter what. But if the pain is such that we end the Federal Reserve, we come up with solutions to get rid of the central banking system, we return to sound money, we return to limited spending and limited government, we return to allowing, you know, everything to take its course, then at least there's hope. At least there's light at the end of the tunnel of that pain, where we can restore our monetary system, where we can restore a limited government that doesn't infringe on us and with every step we walk on a public fucking street, right? You know, so it's like, what pain do you want to sign up for? Or do you want the pain of the American dollar continuing to be devalued? Do you want to have the pain of our own U.S. government and our dollar being lowered time and time again in a credit rating so that it holds lesser value? Do we want to endure the pain of more and more countries moving away from the U.S. dollar and what those ramifications are? Do we want to continue the pain of moving more and more into a communist socialist country where there's universal basic income, where we're all moved into 15-minute fucking cities, the way the World Economic Forum wants, and the globalists want. That pain to me is a hell of a lot more than if we take our liberty back, we take our sovereignty back, we stop interfering with every fucking country around the goddamn globe and spending more money on that than we do on our own people in our own country and securing our own borders. And and stepping out of NATO, stepping out of the UN, the pain from that would at least be tolerable, because there would be a way to come out from under that pain and establish liberty the way our founders meant for it to be. So end rant, and then we only have 14 minutes left. So those of you right now that are in the switchboard, Robert, Cinnamon, and Donnie, you are muted. You haven't raised your hands, but before I forget, I want to unmute you before my switchboard shuts down. You can stay muted on your end, but of course, feel free to chime in if you want to speak. So I'm going to unmute you guys now. Unmute Robert, unmute Cindy, unmute Donnie. Speak up when you want to, but at least you all are on the line before we go into no man's land here in about 16 minutes. So what do you all think of that first 15 minutes of the interview? And again, I put the link to the full interview in the chat room.
So let's say this before about ending the Fed versus ending the IRS, right? Okay. Ending the Fed would be much easier than ending the IRS, because the IRS is a constitutional amendment, I think, and the Fed is an act, was passed by Congress as an act. All right, the Federal Reserve Act. So all we got to do is repeal that Federal Reserve Act, and the Federal Reserve is gone. Yeah, he's right, Lorianne, that it would be painful for a short amount of time, but Americans, I think, are willing to go through the pain to get out of this crap, to get away from the whims of the Federal Reserve. We don't like the fact that the economy is going good. We're going to raise the interest rates and print more money.
The Federal Reserve Act can be sunset, just like the Voters' Rights Act is sunset. But here's the thing: the United States carrying the security for the other nations in NATO causes a problem that's going to come up. If you help Ukraine to develop, Ukraine started developing innovations and technology, and the next thing you know, they'd be wanting to sell automobiles, commercial jets, and other things to the United States. That money that we're using to provide them with their security and safety, where they're not obligated to do for themselves, that money should be put back into the pockets of American citizens so that they can develop their own personal GDP and their own personal household. Well, hell no, it's going to taxes that's being shipped all over the planet.
Absolutely. When our business should be take care of the American citizens first and spend the money, whatever we have. If we have this much money, we can spend for Ukraine and NATO and other countries, and their roads are better than other roads in United States. I mean, they have their tanks is brand new.
Whoever is shuffling around and making noise, please mute yourself on your end. Sounds like somebody's shuffling things around. It's kind of okay.
Yep, that was me, and I thought I was muted.
Just mute yourself on your end, because it's kind of drowning out Brother Mike as he's talking. Hearing the shuffling.
Sorry.
Thank you, Lori. And I'm agree with you, Lorianne. what you said after the 15 minutes, yes, we would have a pain, but the pain would be much lessened, I believe, if we do not involve ourselves into business of any other nation. It's our country. We have to, if we have this much trillion, right now $21 trillion we have deficiency right now, or even more. But the question, why can't we do it and repair all the roads in the United States? Or why not can we train the people for the new jobs? And why can't you give more Social Security to our our seniors and elders that they are struggling? I mean, why Americans has to go wait into mobile home food banks and get food? Why? Why is the food so much expensive? And we have the pictures. I mean, that people have a BMW, Mercedes-Benz. They go wait in the mobile food bank and get food for their family. I mean, why? Why we have to spend so much money, etc.? We have to make a peace. Peace is construction. War is destruction. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
But it's a big money maker. And talking about immigration, again, before my switchboard shuts down, there are a couple of very short clips that I wanted to play talking about immigration, right? And these are old. So this is Bill Clinton talking about immigration back in 1995. And if he were to do this same clip now, he would be considered a right-wing extremist fanatical by saying this. And so I got Clinton first, and then I'm going to play an Obama that's also very short. So this is back in the day, 1995, Bill Clinton, Democrat, talking about immigration.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Okay, and next up, this is Obama talking about immigration at a town hall in 2009.
This is not going to be a free ride. It's not going to be some instant amnesty. What's going to happen is you are going to pay a significant fine. You are going to learn English. You are going to go to the back of the line so that you don't get ahead of somebody who was in Mexico City applying legally. But after you've done these things over a certain period of time, you can earn your citizenship, so that it's not something that is guaranteed or automatic. You've got to earn it, but over time, you give people an opportunity. Now, it only works, though, if you do all the pieces. I think the American people, they appreciate and believe in immigration, but
They can't have a situation where you just have 500,000 people pouring over the border without any kind of mechanism to control it. So we've got to deal with that at the same time as we deal in a humane fashion with folks who have put down roots here, have become our neighbors, have become our friends. They may have children who are U.S. citizens. That's the kind of comprehensive approach that we have to take. All right?
Isn't that right-wing extremism?
Yeah, but here's what we have a problem with is both parties talk to the heart and not to the mind. Both of those guys sound like a couple of Republicans, right? But, it was Clinton who signed the Hyde Act that, was pro-life, and he won re-election because, he reached some right-wingers' hearts. Ronald Reagan, man, everybody loved him, but abortions went up the year he came in, and he never passed signed a law that would slow or stop abortions. And I can't follow either one of them, neither side, the Republican or Democrats. They're down there. They're talking to our hearts, whichever side you're on. But at the end of the day, me and you are mad at each other, and they're one party.
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, I love it that Obama was literally saying we can't have 500,000 people just crossing the border illegally. We have to have mechanisms in place to control this, and that was
Absolutely.
Obama. Biden was his fucking vice president. And now look at what we got. We got 500,000 people crossing the fucking borders, being shipped off to anywhere and losing track of them, and giving them fucking court dates for 8 years from now because we can't handle this insurgent. It's like it's absolutely like Obama himself predicted it in just that one little clip. That's exactly what was going to happen. And that's exactly what they've allowed to happen. What they were preaching against back in the day is exactly what they have implemented now, 10, 15, 20 years later.
Absolutely, you are right. And also, they had the clashes with the National Guard for the last 48 hours. I mean, what the hell is going on? I mean, these people, without any security check, they come to our beloved country, and we don't know who they are. And many other people come from China, from IRGC, from Ayatollahs. It's not good. And that's why we have so many fires right now. We have fires in Virginia. We have fires in Oklahoma, borderline with Texas. And still we have a suspicious fire keep going, keep popping out in our beloved country. What they want to do? They want to put our country into ashes.
What the heck are you talking about? Fires? What did you just say? Fires? What's the fires got to do with it?
Yeah, because suspicious fire. You remember Texas? What happened? The 1 million acres.
Yeah, where? Virginia?
No. Right now, around Virginia, it is a fire. There is Oklahoma. There was also fire close to Texas, and there's so many good. There's a website. I think you just put. Fires in United States, and they will give you a map, and you can see how many fires right now there. I mean, this is
maybe Smokey the Bear didn't get paid. I don't know. I haven't heard any fires around here in Virginia, but I don't know about Oklahoma. But what's causing the fires? What are you saying? China's doing it? Ayatollah?
There was a shit ton of fires in Texas. Very recently.
But who's starting the fires? Well, I don't understand what he's saying. Who's starting them if they do exist?
The people, illegals, they come here and terrorists. Sabotage. There's so many Chinese. So many Chinese.
You've got wildfires going on in West Virginia that I don't remember ever hearing about wildfires in West Virginia.
But there is a map.
Especially this early in the year.
Yeah. Things are popping up kind of weird.
And China's doing this?
No,
China's starting these fires?
either China or those illegal aliens. We don't know who the hell are they coming to our country. It can be anybody. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
You know, I remember watching a video that they were literally at the border where this insurgence was happening.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, a lot of the people that were part of this caravan were obviously Asian. And it's speculated that a lot of them are coming from China, CCP, stuff like that. It's like, you know, and there was even an interview with a Mexican drug cartel. Of course, you know, he was, you know, shaded, but he was supposedly, you know, a big part of one of the Mexican drug cartels. And it's like, if you look at who's crossing, it's all Asian. It's not even us. Like, it's all Asian flooding in through, you know, this area.
Absolutely.
I remember the story from
it's not a
Canada too.
thing to think that, yeah, you know, we got communist CCP people from
Hundreds of
China
thousands of them.
coming in through our southern border and bringing in the fentanyl with them.
We have seen armed Mexicans. They came and go like open borders. It's like nobody say anything. Go ahead and check. Go to Patrick Humphrey YouTube. Go to there and check his website. It should be very 1, 2, 3. You will see it. You will see that what he says, and he's right. And he's monitoring all the fire maps in United States. I mean, or go to Canadian Prepper also and NYC Prepper. These are the main sources that we get some of the best intels, and of course we have our own intels that we always share with you guys.
That would be one way to conquer the United States, is to disrupt from the inside. Besides, they keep talking about how they're trying to hack our systems. Another good way from the inside is to take up resources, you know, cause catastrophes here or there. And
why do they want to conquer us, though? Why? What would be the reason to occupy the United States?
Because not to occupy us, or they would just go ahead and send an army. This isn't war. This is just to knock us down, and then they can take over in the world. They will be the number one in the world. World order.
They will
there
never.
You go.
They will never send an army to take us over. An army is a useless, wasteful resource for a foreign government to try and come in here and conquer the country. However, internally, and doing it the way they're doing it right now is the way that they're going to take us over, with all the internal conflicts and everything else. But just like an officer or a cop going into a domestic violence call, okay, this nation will come together if attacked. And we will put down our differences and we will go after an attacking army. However, I mean, and it's like an officer going to a domestic violence call. That is the most dangerous situation an officer can be put into, because he will not know who is the perpetrator and who's the victim, and there is nothing that says that once you get in the house, you know, and it becomes a family invasion, that they don't all gang up on you because you came.
I had a lieutenant tell me the worst type of domestic call that they could go on is where you have two male lovers going after each other and they attack you. These male lovers Some of them weigh 6'2" and 245.
Yeah, those homos can fight. Let me tell you.
Well, they had to learn.
They can fight.
Hey,
I give them credit. They can fight.
If you guys ever want to see something real neat, at Hillsdale College, there's a guy named Brian T. Kennedy. He did a speech called Big Pharma and the Chinese Communist Party. He goes into, and he mentioned a lot of big names up there in Washington, D.C. that agrees China will never, ever use nuclear bombs or anything like that on America, because what they want is the property, and that's why they will take us over internally in time. And but they will never
they
hit
don't
the
want to
ground with
poison
an
the
army.
goods.
Yeah, they want and they don't want land they cannot use. They don't want something they can't plant on, dirt they can't plant in. But they will internally take us over, and eventually it'll be more of a political, like a company transition rather than a war, and somebody staking down a flag as the winner, But you see, that's a really interesting thing, and he mentions several big people at the top, in politics that, they had conversations with about this at the Pentagon and stuff like that.
Right now we have Intel.
Okay, what was his name again? I'm sorry.
Brian T. Kennedy. And if you go there and you just type in Big Pharma, and this was the farm, not just the farm, the COVID thing, but much of our medical system coming from that World Health thing, getting in, and that's why I can see this whenever you've lived all your life and you want to leave your house to your kids, and the government saying, well, you owe us medical bills, that kind of stuff. They're doing it. But yeah, Big Pharma and the Chinese Communist Party. Brian T.
Yeah, I know.
Kennedy.
I know we have a huge problem. I mean, we found that out during COVID, that most of our medication was coming from China. They just make the pills, and I'm not saying that they're tainted or anything like that, but if you can't make your own medications, somebody's got you by the throat.
Well, here's what really bothers me. You hear the story of this lady that, because she got medical attention. Whatever happened to Obamacare? I thought that was supposed to take care of those concerns for us. So it's all geared to take it to the top. Take all the resources to the top, and you do that by you can't leave your stuff to your children, and they get it through taxation.
Well,
so whenever people say we're a democracy,
you that was trying to say something?
No, I don't think so.
Joe Gibson was trying to say something.
I just know whenever I hear people say, our democracy, no, we're not a democracy. At least democracy would be us down here getting what we want. They've changed the law of gravity. Everything goes to the top, no matter money, power, authority, or whatever. It all goes to the top.
Yeah, I was reading, I mentioned this before, I think, but, it was maybe a month ago, and I read this article about how 80% of what we the people actually want never gets implemented. And that means that 80% of what we the people want our representatives to do, they do not do. They actively defy what we want.
Right.
For their own interests, for corporate interests, everything else. That means we have a tyrannical government, everybody. They are not representing us.
That's why we need Bianchi and Sarge on the Trump team, saying, hey, boss, look, have you considered this? We really do.
You know,
need
any
real people out there.
limitations that we the people want. We want term limits. We want, you know, election integrity. You know, as a matter of fact, I just read an article about how Google AI interfered with our last election. And
oh, hell yeah, it did.
You know, yeah, it's like, and this shit's coming out. But, of course, everybody that said so was censored. So that's another, like, you know, I think that if all of this shit comes to light, you know, when it comes to Meta, Facebook, Twitter before Elon got it, Google, all of it, it's so evident that there was election interference by means of these things, suppressing and censoring conservatives and censoring perfectly legitimate things, you know, especially when it came to COVID, all of it. I mean, this stuff is huge, huge. And when Google itself, and now Intel, right here in Oregon, Intel is getting a nice big fat, like $8 billion incentive to produce more chips from the federal government. Well, what do you think, what's the fine print in that? So the federal government is going to be subsidizing Intel to produce more, you know, computer, cell phone, whatever chips, server chips, stuff like that. How much you want to bet there's a nice back door? The NSA is going to fucking love that. Hey,
you have to
Intel,
start the revolution.
you know, you're the biggest chip producer in the United States, and we're going to mandate that if you take this money, which is too hard to pass up, honestly, you know, over $8 billion, that's a lot of money. You know, you're going to have these back doors, and so anybody that has a computer or a device with an Intel chip, we could easily surveil and send all that data off to our, you know, several NSA data farms, and then we have AI.
This crap is already.
So AI is going to be able to gather all of this data and analyze it, you know, and use it against us. Fucking A.
They'd already been doing it.
Sorry,
That's why
Cinnamon,
Snowden's gone, because they've already been doing it, even with the lower technology. They don't have. It's just going to be easier for them once they get the bigger technology. That's why Snowden left the United States, is because he turned it in. He let us all know that they're spying on us, no matter who we're talking to,